I don't think, like, it should translate into Tesla stock going up 20x or 50x, right? Just robo-taxi alone should 20x the stock. People think that a merger would be great. And when they talk about the benefits, my opinion is they exaggerate the benefits and they minimize or don't talk about the risks. Sam Altman said that OpenAI will not be using space-based AI data centers. So the problem is that it depends how big you want your brain to be. The long-term future of xAI's compute is going to be in space because that's the only place you can get enough energy for your goals.
How's xAI or Grok standing versus all these other AI models?
Right? There's some really, really big questions out there that humans have been struggling with for a long time, but our brains aren't big enough to figure it out. Okay. There's a lot of data out there and we are not able to piece the data together. And if you have a big enough brain, if AI, not just one AI, if there's multiple AIs that have bigger and bigger brains, they may be able to start figuring out questions that humans have not been able to solve.
So you're saying now in 3 years, Elon will be cranking up 1 million robot in 3 years. So what's that effect on the stock price?
Then they're going to build, this was the thing where I said, I can't believe they're doing this in California. And he replied to me and said, the Gen 4 will be built in Texas at 10 million units a year. Robo-taxis are operating. He said there's about 500 now and it will double every month. Now, okay. I don't believe that that's accurate. I hope it's true.
Hello, Warren.
Hello.
How are you?
Sawati Kap.
Sawati Krap. Thanks for coming on our Trader KP podcast.
Huh?
Yeah. So have you heard about the big news of the merger?
Yes, definitely. I've made a few videos about the prospect of, well, first of all, there's the SpaceX xAI merger, and then there's the prospect that Tesla would merge with SpaceX. So yes. I've made a few videos about that already. I've had a lot of conversations about that. Very interested in that topic.
Okay, so that's why we invited you to the studio today to break down this topic. I think we'll make it into 2 parts. Let's talk about the xAI and SpaceX merger.
Sure.
And then eventually let's talk about whether or not they'll merge with Tesla.
Sure.
Yeah. So the deal has gone through between SpaceX and xAI. What's your take on it, and what do you think? What's really the intention behind this quick merger, like out of nowhere, that we haven't heard about it since last year, but it takes place very quickly?
Well, first of all, you take a step back. X was acquired by xAI. So you have what the former social media website, Twitter, was acquired by xAI. xAI is an artificial intelligence company that's mission is to understand the universe. And then they acquired X, and I think it just fit because X is a huge source of data that makes Grok, xAI's chatbot, AI, it's able to learn a lot from the ongoing conversations on X about how humans talk about things. So you start with that. And you have this thing about xAI, which is that they have the largest training cluster. As I understand it, Google has a lot of computing power. But xAI has a lot of compute power because Elon is very good at getting things done big and quick. So they built this cluster called Colossus 1. They're, I think, underway or already complete with Colossus 2, which are these large clusters using lots of NVIDIA chips and maybe some other chips so that they can train their model better. And then there's a critical detail called inference, that they have more inference compute. When you have a lot of people asking you for responses, the more inference compute you have, the better you can answer their questions. So I think when you put that together with the future that Elon sees, and it makes a lot of sense to me, is it's very difficult to build more data centers in America. Can't build them in Europe. Could build them in China, but the US government won't allow the chips to go to China.
Okay.
So where are you going to be able to build your new computing clusters, your new data centers, where you can build them in high volume? If you can't build them in America at scale and you don't have the electricity to support it at scale and it's hard to get permits in America, well, the one place you can build AI data centers is in space.
Okay. So is there really no place left on Earth to build? Like, for example, like Jensen Huang talks about building in like near volcanoes or in the desert where there's a lot of renewable energies.
I think that, first of all, getting permits anywhere in the United States is difficult. I think somewhere like Saudi Arabia, maybe they would approve it. There's challenges anywhere you want to go. You have national security issues. You have other issues with locating anywhere. And then you have this fundamental problem, which is when you want to scale your compute very large, there's only so much energy available on Earth. Okay. Like if you really think big and you say, well, we want to have 1 million times the energy that we have today.
Okay.
You can't get that much energy on Earth.
Okay.
But if you put solar panels in space and you capture light from the sun, if you have enough satellites, you basically have an unlimited, it's not unlimited because the sun isn't unlimited, but you have an effectively unlimited source of energy.
Okay. The question
and
is,
there's no neighbor complaining that we don't want that data center next to our house. There's no neighbor complaining about you're using too much water because they don't use water and it's in space. So there's a lot of advantages. And the construction cost, because there's certain things about having satellites in space that make it actually more cost effective once you can launch at low cost, which is coming next year or the year after. SpaceX Starship will be launching in such volume so efficiently that the cost of putting that satellite into space will be lower than setting up the same AI compute on Earth.
Okay. I understand about the cost perspective. I understand where energy is unlimited outside. But do we really need this data center outside Earth? That's my first question. Because like for Sam Altman, he just came out and said that even if you go out into the space, the computer you build out will not be significant or what we need or will not change.
Sam Altman said that OpenAI will not be using space-based AI data centers. So the problem is that it depends how big you want your brain to be.
That's my question.
The fundamental question
is, our brain to be that big that need that much energy.
There's two different. Okay, so we have to separate AI into what I think is two different types of AI compute. What does the AI computer do? So one is you have this model. Okay, it could be the Tesla model of driving a car. Okay, and you have to train the model how to drive the car. So you have your AIs drive these cars around for weeks, and you collect all this data and you see where all the mistakes are being made. Okay, because the car hit the brakes too hard, the car almost hit something. Okay, we don't want to do that again. Let's take all the data from all these incidents and let's upload that into the cloud. And then you have a training run. You say, let's train the model to learn from these errors. That's training compute. The computer that's in the car, photons, light comes in, the cameras. The computer in the car looks at all the light and it applies the model that it was trained with, and it outputs turn left, go faster, go slower, turn right. So that's called inference compute. When you ask ChatGPT or Grok or Gemini a question, the response is from inference compute. Over time, they get enough answers from enough people, and they get enough feedback that this was a good answer, this was a bad answer. Okay, let's retrain our model now that we have more data so that next time we give better answers. Okay, so you have training compute, which is let's learn from all our experience. And you have inference compute, which let's answer the questions. And the questions might be, where should I go for dinner tonight? Right? Or I'm thinking about traveling to China. What city should I go to? Right? And you get a response from the AI. It's literally a question I just asked today. Okay. And then there's how does the AI answer that question? Right. And something like 95% of AI compute is inference compute, which is just answering the question. With the car, by the way, answering the question is, these photons came in, this is the situation we're driving in. Should we steer left? Should we steer right? Should we slow down? The answer is how to drive the car. When you ask the AI a question on your phone or on your computer, you say, what city should I go to China? What city in China should I go to? You get an answer, right? So answering the immediate question is inference compute. Training the model is training compute. So the issue is, for inference compute, you want the response to be quick. So you want your inference compute to be close to the user.
Yes.
And if you put AI satellites far enough away from Earth, their responses aren't quick. I think one of the issues that they have is their plan is to have SpaceX submitted a proposal to the FCC to launch 1 million satellites, and
That's huge.
Primarily Earth orbits from different levels of orbit. And the closer you get to Earth, the quicker your response to the question. So I think most of those satellites are going to be close enough to Earth to provide inference compute that gives quick answers to questions from users. And the question could also be, by the way, give me a video that shows this. Tell me a story in a video that's 5 minutes long, and the AI generates a video for you. So there's a lot of different use cases for what AI is going to do. So that the current generation of AI compute is all fairly close to us, so it's able to respond fairly quickly as long as you have enough compute. I think Elon is looking towards a future where the demand, and we've talked about this before with NVIDIA and why I think NVIDIA is going to grow, the demand for artificial intelligence is going to go up very, very large.
Okay.
So if the demand for artificial intelligence is going to go very large, in terms of the sense of, I have a question for the AI. I want the AI to answer my question. I want the AI to drive my car. I want the AI to direct my robot. I want the AI to make me a video. I want the AI to make me a song. I want the AI to design me, to create software for me. These are all questions that you usually want fairly quick answers to. You might be willing to wait a little bit, but that's all inference compute. And as the demand for where people say, like, so right now I'm doing a lot of things like that. 95% of the world might use AI a few times a day to ask a question that requires a text response. Relatively few people are asking AI to generate videos. Relatively few people are asking AI to create software. So as more and more people realize AI can do all these really cool things for me, then the demand for AI goes up very, very large, 1,000x or more. And if you need a 1,000x compute, right? You have a 1 gigawatt cluster now. You need a terawatt cluster in the future, 1,000 gigawatts. I don't see where you build those data centers. I don't know how you get that built to be able to respond to all the demand. And I see a world, this is where I see xAI having a huge advantage, especially with SpaceX, working together with SpaceX to launch these satellites, is if the demand increases at that. Let's suppose right now, this isn't completely accurate, but it's not far off.
Okay.
Let's suppose that xAI Grok, OpenAI ChatGPT, Google Gemini, and Claude Anthropic each have a quarter of the market. It's not true, but it's not that far from true. Okay. Now the market expands 1,000x. The other guys increase their compute 100x. They somehow managed to build much larger data centers than they have now, 100 times what they have, but the demand increased 1,000x. But xAI increases their compute 1,000x. Okay, well, the other guys can only now serve 2.5% of the market, because although they've increased their compute by 100x, the market increased 1,000x. So they're only able to serve 2.5% of the market instead of 25% of the market.
Yep.
But xAI has increased 1,000x, so they're now able to serve pretty much the remaining market. And so if you want to capture the demand for AI, you want to have as much. This is, by the way, this isn't like, I haven't seen Elon say this. I haven't seen anyone else say this. This is just sort of my interpretation of what I'm seeing, and I think I'm right.
Okay.
If the market grows that much, and I think it's likely to grow that much, if it grows 100x and you grow 10x, but
you're shrinking.
But the other guys grow 100. Your share, you're growing,
but you're shrinking.
Your market share is shrinking.
Okay.
So I think xAI ultimately wins if they can deploy a lot more compute than anyone else, and SpaceX allows them to do that.
Okay. Before we talk about that, this advantage of being in space for xAI, I just want to come back about timing a little bit. I know Elon's thinking about big future, big brain. That's why we need a lot of compute, right? Out in space, like you said, 95% inference can be done in outer space if it's close enough. But let's talk about timing, Because do we need that big of a brain now to raise fund now for this project? So for example, like wouldn't expanding on Earth in the shorter term make more sense, either commercially or the need, versus now to raise fund and go straight to the space?
Well, no, I think that the plan is to continue growing on Earth for the next 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
And maybe even beyond that. But at the same time, you have to start growing in space because there's a limit to how much you can do on Earth. There's only so much electricity being produced. One of the advantages that Tesla brings to the table is the batteries. So Elon has explained this, but I'll explain it.
So you don't think he's too fast on this?
Not at all.
Oh, okay.
No, I think he's usually has good timing.
Okay.
Maybe he's a little late because he's often a little late. But I think he's faster than everyone else to see this.
Okay.
The United States average demand for electricity is about half a terawatt, 500 gigawatts. But at peak, it's more than a terawatt. It's double that. So what Elon has figured out that it doesn't seem like anyone else has figured out is if you take a lot of batteries and in the middle of the night, you charge up your batteries with the electricity that's produced when there's not that much demand. And then in the middle of the day, when the electricity generation is overloaded and you can't get more electricity, you use your batteries to feed your data centers. You can actually double, or you can have a very large increase in your ability to do compute as long as you have the batteries. So I think and he's pretty much said that. So that's a strategy for expanding on Earth that will carry xAI and Tesla in their development of xAI and SpaceX together, and Tesla for the next 2 to 3 years, if not longer. But there's a point where you said this thing about why do you want a bigger brain? Are you seriously asking that question? Like, why wouldn't you want to have a smarter AI?
My question is that bigger brain is needed. The timing, like, and I understand in the longer term you would need the biggest brain, but how much you're willing to pay or sacrifice a short term,
I don't think there is a
benefit.
sacrifice in the short term. And it's not like SpaceX is launching AI data center satellites tomorrow. Elon's talking about 2-3 years.
Okay.
That when they start launching AI data center
But
satellites.
I'm sure that they're spending more capex per compute more than other people who's building out on Earth in the next 3 or 4 years, right?
Well, again, you want to grow faster than everyone else, so you can as the market grows, you can capture as much of the market as possible. So they were doing this before the merger. xAI was building out AI data centers, and Tesla is building out AI data centers before any merger. I think it's just that the long-term future of xAI's compute is going to be in space because that's the only place you can get enough energy for your goals.
Okay.
And it's not just, hey, tell me where a good restaurant is in town, right? It's like, I want to understand physics. I want a really, really big brain to address fundamental questions of physics.
Okay.
I want a really, really big brain to figure out what things could we tweak with genetics to get rid of cancer, right? There's some really, really big questions out there that humans have been struggling with for a long time, but our brains aren't big enough to figure it out. Okay. There's a lot of data out there, and we are not able to piece the data together. And if you have a big enough brain, big enough brains, if AI, not just one AI, if there's multiple AIs that have bigger and bigger brains, they may be able to start figuring out questions that humans have not been able to solve.
Okay. So let me change these questions in terms of the AI competition. So it seems like, in your opinion, xAI will have the biggest brain in the longer term with their advantage with data center space.
I think they do now.
But what about, so in the short term, how's xAI or Grok standing versus all these other AI models?
So it depends on what you're asking the AI to do. My impression is that xAI is very good with Grok at delivering video content. In other words, you ask it to generate a video and it generates a good video. You ask it to generate an image, it's very good at generating an image. I think they're all imperfect. They all have flaws. I personally use Grok. I probably have 10 conversations a day with Grok. I use Gemini some, Google's Gemini. I use ChatGPT rarely. ChatGPT has this strange advantage that it reads Thai text off an image.
So that's why you're using it a lot more.
I use it, well, I don't do that very often.
Yeah.
gamlang rian Pasa Thai nit noi. So I'm learning to read Thai.
But by being in Thailand,
so I don't have that question as much. Same thing with Japanese, by the way. Same thing with Japanese and Chinese. For some reason, ChatGPT is better at reading Asian languages off images. So I tend to use ChatGPT for that specific reason.
Okay.
But I largely use Grok and then some Gemini, depending on what the situation is. And I find that they're all roughly equal. I actually think ChatGPT has been getting worse lately, and that's a long conversation.
Okay.
But I think Grok is as good as anyone else in my use. Now, there's specific use cases where a lot of people are convinced that, let's say, coding, Anthropic's Claude Code, pretty much everybody says it's the best one.
That's what I hear.
At creating software. I'm actually using Grok right now to create software to help me learn to read Thai, and it's doing pretty well. I can see where something might be better, but I'm pretty happy.
Have you tried Claude Code versus using Grok?
I have a free account with Claude, so it's limited.
Okay.
I did start with ChatGPT. This is why I say ChatGPT got worse. ChatGPT was helping me build the app, and it was going really well. And then all of a sudden, ChatGPT got really slow, and it started making mistakes, like big mistakes, like ruining the software. And then I gave all the code we had to Grok and had Grok do a code review, and then Grok started helping me build. And Grok solved. I was trying to do night mode, day mode, where it's black text on white background versus white text on black background. And Grok did a much better job than ChatGPT at that. And now I'm going forward with Grok. But what was striking wasn't so much that Grok, because I started with Grok and Grok wasn't good.
Yeah.
So I think Grok is improving. But just today, Elon said, yeah, our code isn't that, xAI's code or Grok code isn't that good yet. We're working on it. That's a primary goal for them, to get better at coding. Okay. So, but everybody's like, anybody who has a lead in anything is only 6 months ahead.
That'll be my next question. But before that, I wanted to say that your app is working because your Thai is improving very fast.
I don't think that's the app yet. But, I believe that being able to read Pasa Thai, yak on Pasa Thai, yak. I want to be.
เก่งขึ้นเยอะเลย
I want to get better. เก่งมากกว่า
But now, so it seems like your conclusion is eventually Grok will take over all these other apps because of their infinite compute that they have over other people. At what point?
If you have a bigger brain, you will get better at things.
At what point do you think the race started to be clear that Grok is, I got to say they're underdog right now, to be honest, to the most people. But at what point do you see the shift where people might see that Grok is,
So I think that
take the lead.
I don't know the answer to that question.
Do we need to wait for a space data center? Is that will be the key?
No.
You don't think so?
No, okay. Grok got a later start. xAI got a later start. They have a small team, but a very effective team. They have more compute. There's something called scaling laws, that the larger your compute, more data, more compute. That's from Andrej Karpathy, who has worked for both Tesla and OpenAI. More data, more compute is what wins. So xAI has the most. Again, Google Gemini has a lot of compute. I think it's going to be difficult for OpenAI and Anthropic, Claude. It's going to be difficult for them to expand compute. And Elon actually addressed this recently, and I think he's right about this. Most of the tech companies are good at software, and they're not good at hardware.
Okay.
And you need to be good at hardware to expand compute. So the people who are doing ChatGPT don't know hardware as well. The people who are doing Claude, Anthropic came from OpenAI. They don't necessarily understand the hardware. Google does hardware. They do more hardware. So they have the ability to expand compute as well, and they have tons of money. But I think and they have their own chips.
Yes, they have TPUs. So eventually you think it's going to be a two-man's game on this?
I think that it will be a two-man game, and then I think ultimately, when you go down a few years down the road, I think that you have to expand into space in order to be able to have larger compute, because there just won't be enough electricity on Earth. There won't be enough places that will let you build data centers. There's limits to what you can do on Earth in so many different ways, and it's going to be easier in 2 to 3 years to go to space and build large scale compute. And when you have 10x the compute of everybody else, that's a huge advantage. So xAI, the criticisms are there, but xAI got to a gigawatt cluster faster than everyone else.
Okay.
And they haven't slowed down. And we're not even talking about Meta, by the way, because Meta, which is, Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg's company, I've tried to use Meta AI. It's terrible.
Okay.
And the credit I'll give Gemini, by the way, is Gemini's fast. I don't know why they're so fast, but if you use Gemini fast, it's fast.
Okay. So we're leaving Meta out of there. Let's focus on Gemini and Grok or xAI here. You mentioned that space will be the deciding factor in the long term. So Google did invest in xAI, SpaceX back in 2015, 11 years ago.
Yep.
Did they foresee this, that eventually they'll need space in order to win or that's pure luck, or is there some strategic investment going on?
I think they had a lot of cash and they invested in a lot of things, and SpaceX happened to be one of them. And I think that the people who run Google may be on board with the idea, and they may want to launch space satellites too.
At this point, right now,
soon.
Yeah.
But
eventually they might regret, because you're saying that they're supporting Elon Musk to beat them in the longer term. I think there's some dilemma here.
Well, I would say that there's room for multiple AIs in the future, and in fact, it's a better future if you have competing AIs.
Okay.
I don't think it's necessarily a good future if you have one super powerful AI. It's better if you have multiple AIs, and there's plenty of room.
But I keep hearing that it's a winner take all market for AI, but you don't think so?
I think that it's a winner take most. Look at Apple iPhone versus Android. Android has the most of the market. Apple has most of the profit.
Okay.
I think that there may be a winner take most where, there's different ways that can play out. But if Claude Code ends up being the best coding AI, then they secure that niche, and that's a 3% of the market that they have solid, and that market grows 1,000x. That's gonna be a very successful company. If Gemini is really good at answering questions quickly from people asking questions, just like Google answers questions really quickly, maybe that's 5% of the market, and that grows 100x or 1,000x, and then they do really well. But if the broader world of AI expands 1,000x and you have better solutions to more things, then there's a lot there. Now, Elon specifically he just had an interview with Dwarkesh Patel and Collison. It's on the Collision account on X. And he talked about one of the things that they're doing they have a part of xAI called Macro Hard, which is a play on Microsoft. And he said they're building, quote, digital human. And basically, most companies, most of their output is digital. Their input is digital, their output is digital. There's not a lot of physical things happening in a lot of companies. Okay. So if you create a digital version of a human that does the work that humans do in existing companies that are tech companies that are primarily doing digital work, then once you create a digital human that's capable, you can have you can do a tremendous amount of work, right? Without you can do really well. And he's saying it unlocks trillions of dollars of revenue. Really simple example is customer service. If you have AIs that can answer questions, and let's face it, human customer service reps aren't always that good.
Of course,
right? The floor that you have to beat, the bar that you have to get over is not necessarily that high. So if you have AIs that are better than human at answering customer service questions, it's like $1 trillion market.
Yep.
Just that. So who's the quickest to that one? No one else is, as far as I can tell, no one else is working on that solution. And I think there's many different things that tech companies do that are digital input in, digital output out, that digital humans could do. Now, this is where we get to this point where I have a really solid understanding in my mind of how Tesla's robo-taxis make money. I have a really solid understanding in my mind of how Tesla's Optimus robot will make money. Tesla's energy business. Tesla's selling cars. I have really good models that I've worked through on how this stuff works. When Elon talks about digital humans and macro hard that are going to be doing digital work, I don't want to say I can't imagine. I haven't settled in my mind on a business model that makes sense to me that this is how much money that makes. What's the cost? I think the cost is very, very low. Once you've created the digital human, the cost is like electricity.
Yeah.
And not a lot. Right? So I think the other thing that I feel like Elon might not see is you have to have companies either you have to have companies that are willing to adopt this digital human approach, which some will and some won't, or you have to have startups that use the digital humans to beat out the companies that don't. And I don't know how quickly humans will organize around this new model.
Yeah.
So I don't know how quickly it makes sense to me that transition happens.
It's just harder to picture and see when it's going to happen.
Well,
when it's going to
you work some of your time for a large corporation.
Yes.
I've worked for large corporations. They don't always adapt well to new technology.
Of course.
So, I can't speak to your company. I can speak to companies I've worked for and governments that I worked for the New York State government. They don't adapt well to technology. So, you either have to have organizations adapt to that technology in order to embrace this new model, or you have to have startups come along. And this is Elon's theory that people will create startups and they will beat out the existing companies because they'll be lower cost and higher quality.
Yep.
It makes sense, but I don't know how quickly humans adopt that.
Because when there's some problem, then eventually what you want to do is to make a call. But in this case, you cannot.
Oh, you can make a call and talk to the AI.
Exactly. There's no one in charge.
Well, his view is you basically take humans out of the loop.
Yeah.
He said this in the past about robo-taxi, about self-driving cars. It's like at a certain point, the AI gets better than human. And then this is a quote, all input is error. When humans tell the AI what to do, the AI is like, why are you telling me what to do?
Cut out the inputs.
I'm the AI. I'm smarter than you. I don't need that.
So I think on this question first, though, I understand it's hard to imagine, and the adoption is difficult to foresee the timeline. But you think Elon is dead serious about replacing human in other workflow and disrupting Microsoft in this case? Because he's naming it Micro Hard. I mean, is he serious about disrupting Microsoft?
I think that macro hard versus Microsoft is half joke. It's half serious and half joke. I think he just likes to make fun of things.
Okay.
So I think that I don't necessarily agree. I love Elon, and Elon's smarter than me. But I don't know that he would say it this way. I think long term he thinks that the AI just replaces human labor and humans don't have to work. I like to think of AI and technology in general as making humans more productive and more capable. So like I'm using AI to create software to help me learn to read Thai, right? I couldn't have done that before AI. I mean, I could have done it, but it would have been tremendously hard, a tremendous amount of work. It would have taken me years, and now it's taking me weeks. And the only reason it's taking me weeks is because I'm busy with other things and I don't finish. So
if you really go at it, you could do it within a day if you focus, and you can do it alone in a day.
I get a lot when I sit down and I work for a couple hours with the AI. I get a lot done. I mean, it's already basically a functioning app. It's now just adding content and tweaking some things.
Okay,
and then it'll be like, okay, how do I get this on the App Store? Okay, how do I make an iOS version? How do I make an Android version? And it's the AI makes it really easy to do that fast. And so let me give you an example about how I see AI and robots creating more jobs for humans rather than less. Elon has said this. Jensen Huang has said this. We're not destroying jobs. Right now, there may be a point in the future where it starts destroying jobs, but right now there's
productivity will increase.
Yes, but right now the point is right now there's so much demand for humans to help build AI data centers,
currently,
to help build chip fabs, to help a lot of to train the AI. The xAI is hiring people. I actually applied once for a job as basically a tutor where you're teaching the AI how to understand this particular topic.
So to build an AI in a new world, we need more labor. We need more people at this moment to build it.
At this point in time, it's very labor intensive and there's a labor shortage.
Okay.
But let me just give you an example of where I see AI and robots creating more human jobs. There may be a point where it changes.
Please.
But I'm thinking in America, you have a business where you put solar panels on people's roofs. And I'm a customer and I want solar panels on my roof. And you come to me and you say, okay, it's going to cost $50,000 to do this job. And I do the math and say, okay, that will pay for me in 10 years. But with interest and everything, it's not justified for me to spend the money now. Okay. And there's 10 humans on the job who are, there's guys going up on the roof, guys might fall off the roof. There's all these expenses that go along with it. And 5 years later, you've got your company, and now you've got when you do a job, you have 5 Optimus robots and 5 humans. And because of the efficiencies and because the robots are the ones that are doing the dangerous stuff, and if they fall, the cost is not nearly as much as a human with a broken spine, right? Then maybe in Thailand, a human with a broken spine isn't expensive, but in America, it's very expensive. So when you...
Still quite a big trouble, though, to having...
So when you... All of a sudden, the job is $30,000 instead of $50,000.
Okay.
And you think, okay, well, now that guy's going to buy this roof thing. But you go from... The demand might 5X. Because you go from all these people who are on the edge to now all these people are now Oh, I definitely want it for $30,000. $50,000. It was a close call. You make it $30,000. Now it makes a lot of sense for me to do the roof.
Similar to the curve.
So
on
let's
this
be clear.
car.
You 5x the jobs.
Yes.
You have the number of humans working the job, but you 5x the job. So you actually 2.5x the number of humans needed to do the work. And I think there's a point where it's like 9 robots and 1 human, or 10 robots and no humans on the job. But I think there's a period of time, and it's 10 plus years, where you're actually creating jobs because you're making it so much more cost effective.
I get you what you mean, but 10 plus? Is it that long?
It's hard to say. I think it's going to take a while to make enough bots.
Okay.
So let's go with that. Let's talk about that for a second. It's a little bit of a divergence from what we're talking about. But
okay, please.
Elon actually replied to me, I think it was within the past week. Tesla announced that they're building the first the Generation 3 Optimus up to 1 million capacity in California, which I jokingly call California.
Okay. They're going to sacrifice Model S and X for that.
They're taking the space from Model S and X to build Optimus in that space.
Which is a good trade in your opinion.
Absolutely. I predicted the death of Model S and X for a long time. More than a year ahead of that, I was saying that Model S and X were dead. They just weren't selling enough. I love them. I had a Model X Plaid. It's a great car. So
let's talk about the robots. Yeah.
So, he projects that this first line will be producing 1 million robots a year, but they're going to start manufacturing this year. Their supply chain isn't in order. It's going to take them probably 3 years to scale up to 1 million robots a year. And then the next one...
That's slower than Elon's timeline.
Because it's not... No, I think that's his timeline. Because he's saying... He specifically said that the timeline for producing robots will be longer because the supply chain doesn't exist. Because they can't buy components off the shelf. Everything is made in-house. So getting the supply chain in line to build the robots at scale is going to take a while. So once they get that and they're producing that at 1 million units a year... Then they're going to build, this was the thing where I said, I can't believe they're doing this in California. And he replied to me and said, the Gen 4 will be built in Texas at 10 million units a year. Okay, well, all right, so you've got 10 million units a year. Well, how many human laborers are there on Earth? 1 billion?
Yeah.
2 billion? 4 billion? If you're building 10 million a year, how long does it take? Even if they do twice as much work as the average human.
The jobs are also increasing as we speak to as well, right? If
the economy grows, there's more work to be done. Okay. So I think... Until you get to 1 billion robots a year, I mean, how many people are working on Earth? We're at like 8 billion people. Okay. Probably at least 3 or 4 billion are working.
That's why you're saying 10 years plus, your opinion.
Yeah, because you have to scale your robot manufacturing to the point. Let's say a robot does twice as much work as a human. Okay, maybe you get that. Maybe you get 3 times them, but you still...
They should, because they don't need to
sleep. you make 10... Well, they don't need to sleep. They don't have fights with their girlfriend, and they don't get drunk.
They don't take vacations.
They don't need vacations. They probably work
3x. I would say.
Keep in mind that like one of the conversations I have, like, all right, you go to this building. There's a guy who's directing us to park. Okay, is that guy working 24/7?
Nope.
Okay, so if you put a bot in his place, no, but is there somebody doing that work 24/7? Because there's places that have parking.
There'll be someone there 24/7. Yes.
Okay, but there are places that have parking attendants that maybe they have 5 parking attendants during the day and 1 at night.
That's simple. Yeah.
So there's 4 jobs that are only 12 hours a day. There's the bot that you assign to that work, like he doesn't have anything to do at night. There's a lot of work. The fundamental thing is economic activity is much busier during the day than it is at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
So I think there's a window. Like you could say, well, the bot will work 24/7. Like there isn't 24/7 work to be done.
Okay.
For everything. Some things have 24/7.
Well, they can go to build factories and do some work that's quite human.
It's true, but at scale, the economy is busier during the day than it is at night. So the idea that the bots are going to work 24/7, like, well, there isn't that much work.
Okay.
You at a certain point you run into a limit of there isn't that much work, and you have to allocate the bots to optimize. And like, there's going to be time when the bots aren't working. There's going to be time when the robo-taxis aren't driving, right? Because nobody wants a ride at 4 a.m. That's just so. I think that there's a productivity advantage, but still, if you're producing 10 million robots a year, which is 5 years from now, let's say, okay, and each robot replaces 3 people, well, you've replaced 30 million people with the first year. Yeah. But there's 3 billion people working. How long is it? All right, now you're doing 100 million bots a year. And I think it's more than 10 years out before you have enough bots. And I still think humans are very adaptable.
Okay.
And you tell a human, we've got this new AI that does this cool stuff, and you're like, hey, how can I use this to do something productive? I think some humans won't, right? There's a lot of humans that aren't capable of adapting well to how can I use this to do something productive.
Okay.
But a lot of humans do figure that out, right? I mean, I figured out, hey, I can make this app to help me read Thai, and there might be 1,000 other Falang who want to learn to read Thai better. And then this is going to work for Japanese. There might be 10,000 foreigners in Japan who want to use this to learn to read Japanese better. I wouldn't have done that without AI. So it's making me more productive. Why wouldn't this scale to lots of people becoming more productive in a lot of different ways?
I want to bring this back to the stock topic a little bit. Although you're projecting it out, like it takes a long time to scale the robot to fill humans' shoes, in each places and all that. But the stock price won't take that long. They will realize the future potential quite fast, right? So you're saying now in 3 years, Elon will be cranking up 1 million robot in 3 years. So what's that effect on the stock price for Tesla?
So let's start with robo-taxi. Okay, so they're going to start building cybercabs this year. The robo-taxi network has started to operate with no driver in the car. He was just asked, I want to say 2 weeks ago, it was at the earnings call. It was at the Q4 earnings call, which was late January. And he was asked how many robo-taxis are operating. He said there's about 500 now, and it will double every month. Now, I don't believe that that's accurate. I hope it's true. I want it to be true, but I don't believe it's true. Because if that was true, 2 to the 10th power, 10 months, would be 1,000x. And you would have 500,000 robo-taxis in 10 months.
No, because every city will not have the same...
I'm saying what he said.
Yeah.
I'm saying what he's... So to be clear, in the United States, the demand for robo-taxi is very, very large. You have room for 10 million robo-taxis. If you just have California and Texas and Florida, you probably have enough for 3 million robo-taxis. So 100,000 robo-taxis is nothing. 500,000 robo-taxis is nothing. There's plenty of room for more. You're going to have Florida, Texas, California, Nevada, Arizona, probably 10 other states.
So you're saying 10,000, you need to go to all the cities. No, just a few cities will be able to use 10,000.
So one of the things where I'm a huge Tesla bull. I'm a big believer the Tesla stock is going to go, 10x, 20x, 100x. I've made some very bold predictions about the future. I think that Tesla stock is going to be flat this year, and that's contrary to what a lot. Now, keep in mind, we're going to be talking about SpaceX merging with Tesla at some point in this conversation.
Yes,
assuming that there's no merger with SpaceX. Okay, we'll put that on the table for a second. Assuming that Tesla moves forward without merging with SpaceX, I think Tesla stock is flat for the rest of this year, 2026. I think when you get into 2027. And this is a question of timing. How quickly does the robo-taxi network grow? For me, the number is 10,000 robo-taxis running full-time. When 10,000 robo-taxis are running full-time, they're generating about $500 million a year in gross profit. And I think you have to include that in the financial statements at that point. And it could be, maybe you need 20,000, maybe you only need 5,000, but somewhere in that ballpark. When it hits the financial statements that we're running a robo-taxi network, and this is how much revenue we're generating, and this is what our cost structure is now, and this is what we expect our cost structure to be in the future and how we expect to grow. There's a large share of the market that doesn't see it yet. There's the nerds like me. We're like 1% of the entire stock market investors who see it and say, this is going to grow to 10 million, 100 million robo-taxis, $500 million in gross profit, $2 trillion in gross profit. But the vast majority of investors see nothing yet. They're not interested in what Elon says at an earnings call, what Warren says in a video, what Stephen, Mark, Ryan, Cern, Basher. There's all these, people creating content about Tesla. They're not watching us. They don't see it. But the minute that it's in the financial statements, there's a large number of people who are looking at the financial statements of Fortune 500 companies, and I think Tesla is probably like a Fortune 10 company or something like that. They're going to see that and say, wait a minute, what's this? Okay, so, and I'm not saying that 90% of the market will now understand it, but 10% of the market will now understand it. And that 10x is the demand for the stock. So some segment of the market which doesn't see it yet, will have to take a look and say, wait a minute. Okay, I see something here I didn't see before. Let me take out my spreadsheet and see what I can model. They're not going to watch Warren's video, Stephen Mark Ryan's video, Cern Basher's video. They're going to do their own model. They're going to say, oh, I think this is going to grow. I think this could be a big business. Let's buy some Tesla stock. Right? We see it now. And I don't think, like, it should translate into Tesla stock going up 20x or 50x. Right? Just robo-taxi alone should 20x the stock. Because roughly $20 billion in gross profit company now, 10 million robo-taxis is, 10 million robo-taxis is $500 billion in gross profit. That's a 25x. They should see that. But they're not going to see that. And if you look at, the way I like to compare this is if you look at Apple with the history of the iPhone and the impact on the stock. Apple introduced the iPhone, the stock started going up. As the iPhone started to be successful, the stock started going up. And after a few years, Apple stock had like 4x'd. And a lot of people sold very happy that they'd 4x their investment in Apple. And then it went up 23x more. Yeah. Right? I think that the market will react, but not enough. And so it will grow. And I don't think, if Elon's correct and they double every month, then this happens by Q3. And we find out it hits the financial statements in October of this year, and that may drive the stock up.
Okay.
If it grows fast enough. I don't think it will grow as fast as he said, but if it does grow as fast as he said, and they're in 6-8 cities, and they've got,
then sure, hope you're wrong. Yeah, hope they're faster.
I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But if they've got 50,000 robo-taxis and they report, hey, we're on pace for, $1 billion in gross profit from robo-taxi or whatever, I think the market sees that and runs with it. But I don't think it will hit the financial statements until Q4, which is January 2027. And it could be after that. Once it hits the financial statements, I think the stock starts to rise on that. And 2x, 4x, I don't care. It starts to grow. And as the robo-taxi network grows each quarter, then they start to see the growth pattern and it starts to grow faster. But it's really 2028, 2029, 2030, as the robo-taxi network grows to 10 million cars and then 100 million cars later, that's when the value just goes crazy. So, but I do think that we're going to see a 2-3x in 2027, but I don't see a reason why the stock would do anything more than be flat this year.
Okay.
Other than SpaceX merger, which has
let's leave the SpaceX and xAI merger aside first. Let's talk about this. So I agree with you. If we start hitting the financial statement, we should only giving Elon's timeline one or 2 quarter delay, no more than that. Because you're saying 27, 28, it's gonna hit the statement. It's gonna fly. But what about the downside? Is there a scenario where like they're already testing robotaxi for almost a year now, and what if they don't never release it publicly? It never hit the statement for another 2 or 3 years. Is there such scenario?
Of course there is. I would say this. I'm not saying 2 or 3 quarters behind Elon. I am saying I think it shows up in Q4.
I mean, you're only giving one quarter max.
No. I think, but I think it could show up in Q2. It could show up in Q3. For me, from my investment perspective, if it shows up in Q3 of 2026, Q3 of 2027, that's October. The stock starts to rise in October of 2027. That's still before the end of 2027 that the stock starts to go up.
Okay.
So it doesn't have to be the January of 2027 that it hits. It still starts to increase the stock in 2027 if it hits anywhere from Q4 of 2026 to Q3 of 2027. That's in the window of the year 2027 that you see it go up. Now, there's a lot of things that could happen, right? It could be like cities say no, states say no, the federal government, Trump and the Trump administration decides we don't like this robo-taxi thing and they clamp down on it. All kinds of things could go wrong. From what I can see, California has an existing path that they're following. Texas has established a path that they're following. Florida has a very pro robo-taxi law that they will follow. Nevada already has the boring company going. I think Nevada will do well. So there's at least 5 states, Arizona's another one, where it's likely to be adopted in a widespread manner across the states, and it's likely to grow and be very successful. And that's all you need. Okay. Ideally, you'll have more over time, but just those 5 states is enough to be incredibly valuable.
I agree. If they can crack even one state, I think is a great value. But let me talk about the real problem here, because we've seen a video of Tesla delivering their vehicle from Austin factory to the house.
Yeah.
But then it went quiet after that. We haven't seen another one. We've seen video of now a service in Austin where there's no safety driver anymore. But after a couple of clips, then it went quiet after that. What's really the real reason?
I'm seeing a lot of clips. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
I'm seeing tons of clips.
Also, currently there's right now a lot of service going on in Austin right now as we speak.
Yeah, I'm seeing. I think it's Joe Tetmeyer does a lot of rides, and David Mason's been doing rides. There's certain, I forget who else. I've seen a few people on X who are like, somebody did like 60 robo-taxi rides.
Okay,
and most
driverless robo-taxis ride.
In Austin, there's no person in the driver's seat in any of the robo-taxis. Most of the robo-taxis have a person in the passenger seat, but there's a subset of a few that have no person in the drive, no employee in the car at all. Okay. California, I think they're still in the driver's seat. I could be wrong about that. I think they're still in the driver's seat. And we'll see. California will change over. But yeah, it's at what point do they take the person out of the car? Because once you take the person out of the car, your cost of expanding is small.
I guess my question is like, what's Tesla waiting for?
I think that they have model 14.2. The FSD 14.2 is the current model. I think they're expecting the next model to 10x to be 10 times the brain, 10x the parameters. It's going to be 10 times, the brain is going to be 10 times as smart. And that version of FSD will be that much more capable. And I think they're currently testing that at small scale.
Okay.
Once they deploy that to robo-taxis, then it's going to be much better, and it may get to the point where it solves all the problems that they're worried about.
So you're saying that with the current version that we're seeing that it's driverless already, but they might not want to release this version in a mass scale. Would they rather wait for the one that's 10 times better, like which is coming soon?
I think it's hard to read the Tesla AI team. I've heard Elon say that the current version is good enough because they're constantly training on the current version, but I think they're very close to that 14.3 or version 15 or whatever that has a much larger brain.
So why not take less risk?
And the thing that people don't get about self-driving cars, they think, well, you need LiDAR, you need cameras, you need sonar, you need whatever, you need all these technologies. No, we drive with two eyes and we drive with a big brain. The reason that we're able to drive with two eyes, with two cameras, is because we have a really big brain. Right? And we're not perfect at it, right? Humans make mistakes, but our brains are pretty good.
Okay.
So the thing that distinguishes Tesla from Waymo and the others isn't that it has better sensors. It's that it has a larger brain. And as you increase the size of the brain, it becomes more capable of learning and more capable of adapting to complicated situations. My gut is they're waiting until the larger brain before they expand it significantly. And they don't need a new chip. The AI4 chip is enough. The AI5 chip is coming, but probably not until next year. But just on the AI4 chip alone, with the new model that's coming that's 10 times the brain, I think it's going to be enough to push them into robotaxi world. But, Elon's
are we talking about weeks that we're waiting here? Just weeks? Or are we talking about months?
Hard to say. I don't have an answer to that question. But I don't worry about that. What I worry about is when do they scale to 10,000 robo-taxis operating full-time? And it could be 8,000, it could be 12,000, it could be 15,000, it could be 6,000. One of my friends says 1,800. I don't think 1,800 is enough to make the financial statements. I have a lot of different opinions on that. I think it's Joe Bhakti or Cern Basher says 1,800. I think 10,000 is roughly the right number. But we're going to see, how quickly does the robotaxi network expand? Do they? And it doesn't matter to me whether I'm corrected about it needing the new model. What matters is when do they take more people out of the car? When do they deploy more robotaxis? And like I said, if the robotaxi network doubles every month, then by the end of this year, we're going to have 500,000 robotaxis, and the value of the stock is going to go insane.
Okay.
Like, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think it's going to be that good. I don't think that it will grow that fast because Elon says predictions and that one's, sometimes you have to take Elon with a grain of salt, right?
Okay.
Love Elon. He's brilliant. He's, one of my favorite people in the history of the planet. I like my kids and everything, right? But like my wife.
Sometimes, yeah.
But Elon's awesome. But at the same time, you have to take Elon with a grain of salt when he says something like, you're like, double every month. That's probably not going to happen.
Okay. So that's
I
why.
hope I'm wrong.
Let me summarize on the price action a little bit. So right now you believe that he might be a little bit fast in his timeline, and you feel like robo-taxi expansion is crucial for the stock price to go up. If it's not include the merger, so it's crucial. So that's why you think maybe this first half of the year, 2Q3, the stock might not move that much. But your advice is, even if you think the stock will not move that much, seems like selling a call against your position right now. If it's further out than the Q3, then you don't really recommend because the surge will be crazy.
So to be clear, I don't sell calls.
Yeah.
I don't give financial advice. I tell people what I think and I'll tell people what I'm doing.
Yeah, based on what you're doing. It's like basically
But I can't give, people ask me all the time, what should I do? How much Tesla stock should I buy? Should I buy these options? Like, I can't answer that question for you. I don't know your personal circumstance. I don't know what you're looking for. And my expectations for Tesla's future might not match your expectations for Tesla's future. So I don't give people advice about what they should do. I will just say this. My expectation is, by the end of 2027, and I've been wrong before, but by the end of 2027, I think Tesla stock is going to grow substantially. I don't see, other than the SpaceX merger, I don't see anything happening that meaningfully increases the stock this year, unless I'm wrong about Elon.
Timeline.
If Elon is correct on his timeline, and the robo-taxi network grows much faster than I predict, then yeah, it grows faster. But I don't, and this is one of those things where it's like my approach is not play games with stocks. My approach is buy a stock I believe in and hold it. And I own a lot of Tesla stock, and I hold it because I believe long run is going to pay off. And my time horizon is not 2026 or 2027. My time horizon is 2030, 2032. If Tesla stock stays flat for 3 years,
you'll be fine with it.
But then it goes up 100x in the next 2 years, doesn't matter to me. I'd like it to go quicker, right? I'd like to be able to buy the yacht sooner, buy the jet sooner, right? But I don't think that's going to happen. I'm just saying, like, if you're a long-term investor, the dangerous game. The danger that people don't see is, well, I'm not going to buy it yet because Warren said it's not going to go up this year. Well, I might be wrong.
You might be wrong. Elon might be right. No, but Warren, let me take the call option out of the question. Apologize for that. But what I mean is, like, from your view right now, you're trying to say that although the stock might be sideways, for example, this year, don't get it wrong that this sideways is not going to have some sort of spike or some sort of big financial re-rating once that 1,000 robo-taxi hit the road and it's on financial.
10,000, yes.
Yeah, 10,000, yeah.
There's a term called a coiled spring.
To
me, there's this, Tesla has, whatever you see in the stock price, whatever you see in the vehicle sales, Tesla is a technology company. And they've been growing this technology and improving their technology, improving self-driving, improving their AI model. They're the only company that has a true AI model for operating in the real world. Nobody else has anything close to the model that Tesla has for AI operating cars and robots.
Okay.
People will say that I'm wrong about that, and I can explain why I'm right about that. But that and their manufacturing technology, there's a lot of other things at Tesla. Their development of a new lithium refinery, of a cathode refinery. There's a lot of things they're doing that keeps compressing that spring. Okay, and at a certain point, the spring releases. If you compare or
break,
I suppose, and I don't see that.
Okay,
and let's be clear, I bought Tesla stock starting in 2016 when it was trading at $10 or $20 a share compared to today's valuation after splits. I've been buying Tesla stock many times since 2016, and I rode it from $10 or $20 a share to $480 a share, back down to $108 a share, up and down. It's one of the most volatile stocks on the market. And when it was $108 a share, I didn't panic.
Okay.
Right? And this is one of the things where, this is why
not because your cost base is low, but because the fundamentals that you still
fundamentals. I see where the company's going. And I didn't sell at 480. Right? And because I don't know when it's going to go. I don't know when the spring is going to uncoil.
Okay.
I don't know when it's going to take off.
Okay.
And I believe,
I like this.
With some, there has to be some uncertainty, but I believe with a very strong confidence that the long-term value of this company is 20x where it is today or more. So
I like that.
I'm just trying to get this point
Yeah.
though, that the idea that there are people who play timing games. I'm going to buy on the dip. I'm going to sell on a high. And I just think you think you're buying on a dip and you don't know it's not going to dip more. You're waiting for the dip. I just talked to somebody the other day. He says, well, maybe it was at your event. He said he's waiting for the stock to fall to 300. It's like, if it falls to 320 and you don't buy, and then it goes to 10,000, are you going to feel bad that you didn't buy at 320? Right? There's many ways to make mistakes playing this game. The one way I think that you don't make a mistake is you buy a stock you believe in and you hold it and you just be patient. Right? And somebody said the best investors were dead people, because dead people don't trade. I'm serious, because dead people don't trade. They just hold their stocks. Okay. And the safest way to invest long-term for success is to hold your stocks. So I didn't make that up, right? But the best investors long-term are dead people because they don't trade.
Thank you. Now, I understand that point. Your point is there's definitely a spring coiling in this technology company that, despite right now the PE is at 200 times and people think that Tesla is overvalued, but you're saying that value is so little compared to the spring that's still coiling. You think the spring is still coiling with this valuation versus other people think it's already stretched. That's the difference that you see in Tesla versus other people.
Let me compare it to SpaceX, which is the other company I know really well. So I see Tesla Robotaxi and Tesla Optimus as machines that are going to start pouring cash out. They're literally going to be spinning cash, just flying out of this machine. SpaceX already has that. Starlink is already... The reason that SpaceX valuation has been going up is because Starlink is very, very profitable. And people can see the path. Okay, they've got these V2 mini satellites today. They're about to start launching their or maybe it's V3 mini, whatever, but they're about to start launching these larger satellites on Starship. They're currently serving 10 million customers. But the path to 100 million customers and 300 million customers is clear. And then they're going direct to sell. Well, that's a whole nother customer base. And then there's other things that they're going to serve, or there's large corporate customers, or there's airlines, or there's cruise ships. There's all these customers that are coming online. So Starlink is already highly profitable. Elon replied to me on that specific point today, right? I had said something about Starlink. Somebody had said, SpaceX relies on military contracts. I'm like, what are you talking about? SpaceX makes money on Starlink. The military stuff is small. And Elon replied, yes. We make maybe 5% of our money on the government, and
the rest is not.
And Starlink is the one that's really spinning cash. So if you have a cash spinning machine, the coiled spring is, when does the machine start spinning the cash? And so Robo-Taxi Network has started making revenue, but not much. And it's growing, but not fast.
It's making money while people believe it cannot scale. That's the difference.
I didn't say it's making profits. It's generating revenue. People are taking rides and they're taking revenue. I think in the medium term, it's going to grow. The revenue is going to go up dramatically, and it's going to start spinning cash. Okay. But it takes, and the question is just, when does the cash spinning machine start and become obvious? With Starlink, it's obvious. With Robotaxi, I think it starts the end of this year. Yeah. It becomes obvious next year. With Optimus, it's probably another year or two away.
Okay.
And the Robotaxi cash machine is bigger than the Starlink cash machine. The Optimus cash machine is 10x the Robotaxi machine. If you just see it,
The chips for feeding SpaceX and all that data center space is also 10 times the Optimus or not?
I haven't modeled the terafab yet.
Okay.
And it depends. We don't know. It's very early in the days of Tesla building a fab.
Okay.
What I think Elon wants to do is he wants to build a really, really, really big fab that makes a crazy volume of chips. And if I understand it correctly, I'm not saying I do, it'll be 10 phases and massive investment.
Okay.
The cost of building the fab will be insane. Like the first phase might be $100 billion. So when you say where's the need for cash? Well, you want to build a fab, that's very, very expensive. And if you want to build a fab that's like the first phase of the fab is $100 billion, you're talking about ultimately you're spending $1 trillion to build a fab. And Elon was talking about this the other day in the interview with Dwarkesh Patel and Collison, that Samsung is growing as fast as they can. TSMC is growing as fast as they can. The companies that produce chips are growing as fast as they can. And the demand for chips is larger than they can match.
Okay.
And Elon is just saying, I don't think they can make chips fast enough for what we need. We need to make chips.
Okay.
So I don't know the model for those chips. And I'm not convinced that the model is so much a revenue model that the chips generate revenue. The model might be they need the chips to go in Optimus. And if you're going to make 100 million Optimus a year, you need 100 million chips just for the Optimus. If you're going to make 10 million robo-taxis a year, well, you need 2 chips per car. Well, that's 20 million robo-taxis. That's 20 million chips. There's a lot of chips you need.
Yes.
And I don't know that the companies that supply Tesla are going to increase their volume enough to. And then you have, well, we need chips for our data centers.
Yes.
Right? And then now we're going to put satellites in space. We need more and more chips, more chips, more chips, more chips.
Yeah.
And there's but if you're not selling the chips to someone else, if you're just using them internally, it's more that it's saving you money on chips you didn't have to buy from someone else. And it's providing you with chips to do things you couldn't have done if you didn't make the chips. So I don't think it's necessarily, and he specifically asked, is the Terafab going to sell chips to others? He says, I think that Tesla's going to use all the chips that we make.
Because that's a limiting factor.
Now, maybe he's including SpaceX in his terms, that their demand for chips is so high that every chip that they make, they're going to use. Well, that means they're not selling them for revenue.
Yeah, he did say it's a limiting factor. So
chips
he's
are
he's gonna use it all that he can produce. Yeah.
So I don't necessarily see the Terafab as a revenue generator. I see it as a tool that allows them to grow the other sources of revenue, the bots, the digital humans, it's
a tool that will make Tesla be able to tackle a bigger TAM in the future, the bigger projects
It
that will come.
It enables you to make 1 billion robots a year. It enables you to make 20 million robo-taxis a year. It enables you to make AI data centers that are large enough that you can train larger models.
Yeah. So we've list. I actually have a list of questions, but let me bring this one in first. So in the past, let's say just 2 years, 1 or 2 years, we have hear bigger and bigger ideas coming out from Elon's and Tesla plans. So for example, just a couple years ago, we started hearing about Optimus. That's huge, right? Optimus.
Yeah.
But now we're starting to hear about the fab, starting to hear about data center in space. You can't even imagine how many millions of satellite or whatever, training in the space already. But do you believe in a year or two, we will hear even a bigger idea coming out at this phase?
I think it comes in waves.
Is there something bigger? What's your take?
Well, no, I think he's already said the big stuff. I don't think he's talked about a Dyson swarm. He's talked about Kardashev too. I don't know if you know what Kardashev is. So let me explain Kardashev. Yeah. Okay, so one of the terms he's talked about is Kardashev. Kardashev is a Russian physicist, I think. And Kardashev talked about categorizing civilizations by how much energy they use. So a Kardashev 1 civilization uses all the energy available on the planet. Okay, so the Earth is a certain size. It gets a certain amount of radiation from the sun. It has some fossil fuels. It has some nuclear, plutonium, uranium, whatever, probably uranium and the Earth. And you can put together all the fossil fuels and the uranium and then the light of the sun falling on the Earth, and you can produce a certain amount of electricity, a certain amount of energy. So Kardashev 1 civilization uses all the energy available to the planet. So Elon has already said, and so Kardashev 2, there's a 3 and maybe there's more. But Kardashev 2 is using all the energy generated by your sun, or all the energy available in your solar system, in your sun and your star system. That's a lot more energy than the energy available on Earth. And Elon has already said Kardashev 2 or bust. So
that he's aiming to get there.
His goal is to capture as much energy from the sun as possible. So think about it this way. The sun is really, really big.
Yes.
And the Earth is this speck over here.
Yes.
The sun is radiating energy in all these directions. And maybe 1/1,000,000th or less of the energy of the sun hits the Earth.
Yeah. As we're going around, we're only using that.
We're getting this tiny dot of solar energy, and there's all this other energy coming off. So a Dyson swarm is a bunch of satellites that orbit the sun and capture ideally in the fantasy future, capture all the solar energy, all the solar radiation generated by the sun. There's reasons why I think that's not going to happen. And it was, I think if you,
At this,
I think if
the
you
world
used,
today.
I think if you, no, I think if you used all the mass of Mercury and the moon and Mars, and you literally disassembled the planets,
Yeah.
and you took all the mass of the asteroid belt, and you made satellites to capture that electricity and have AI chips in them, there isn't enough mass in the planets to build the Dyson swarm, the full Dyson swarm. But Elon isn't talking about. He isn't talking about actually building the complete Dyson swarm that covers the entire sun. He's saying maybe we can get to 1/10%. Like right now, we're less than 1/1,000,000th of the sun's energy. Maybe we can get to 1,000th of the sun's energy, right? And that would create a very, very, very large brain that's capable of solving very, very, very large problems that you and I and no human on Earth can even understand the problems that this brain will be able to solve.
Yeah.
And Elon's goal is, can we solve really, really big problems? Can we understand how the universe works at a much larger scale that, maybe we're just not, we're like monkeys. If you think about it, we're like,
we're less than monkeys.
We're
monkeys can still climb and eat and do that.
But we're basically, like, in terms of our brains, we're basically advanced monkeys. We're somewhere between, we're somewhere ahead of monkey and somewhere ahead of dog.
Yeah.
Right. And we think we're at the top, and we are, but we're not at the top for long.
Okay.
And, within humans, like, Elon's really super smart. And there's, you could probably think of like 10 people you can think of in the world who are like, wow, that guy's a lot smarter than me. Right? Elon's a lot smarter than me. Okay, I'll give that. This guy over here, Eric Weinstein, he's a lot smarter than me. I still have my opinions. I might still disagree with him on something, but no question that guy's smarter than me. But when you create an AI brain that has, I mean, already, if you use ChatGPT, if you use Grok, if you use Gemini, and you ask it a question, it gives you a better answer than anyone you know. If I asked you a question about Cambodian politics, right? You might know something about Cambodian politics, but I'll bet you Gemini knows more about it than you do.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Thai politics, you might know a little bit more than Gemini. It might be a close
Not more
call.
than Gemini.
Thai business, whatever. You're you know a lot about Thai business.
Okay.
But, if I asked you about the Argentinian beef industry, you would have no clue.
Oh, yeah.
I would have no clue. And Gemini would have an answer in 30 seconds or less. A detailed and largely correct answer. So I would say today, all of these AIs are smarter than all of us, than any one of us, right? And what Elon's way of saying it is, within a couple of years, the AIs will be smarter than all of us together.
Yes.
Because there's somebody who knows the Argentinian beef industry better than Gemini. There's somebody who knows Cambodian politics. Hun Sen knows Cambodian politics better than Gemini,
at all. Yeah.
Right? But Hun Sen doesn't know anything about the Argentinian beef industry, and Javier Milei in Argentina doesn't know anything about Cambodian politics. And we're getting to a point where these AIs are going to understand all this stuff better than all of us together. And then start to understand things where Elon would put it this way. Sometimes it's not knowing the answer, it's knowing what questions to ask.
Okay.
And we get AIs that are smart enough to ask better questions. Like maybe we learn to ask better questions of the AI. Maybe the AI learns to ask better questions as it trains its model to try to understand things. And the value of that high level of intelligence is, it's really hard to answer. How do you value intelligence? The thing is, I think we all agree that humans being more intelligent has created a better world for humans than if we all had monkey intelligence.
Of course.
We're able to create these magic phones and have these magic microphones and these magic cameras.
We're able to talk to 10,000 people from this room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Monkeys can't create that stuff. And, SpaceX has created a rocket that goes up into space and comes back down. And Elon says that the AIs will say not bad for a monkey.
Okay.
Right? Because to the AI, you go 10 years from now, the AIs are going to be so smart.
Okay.
It's going to be hard for them to tell the difference between us and monkeys.
Okay. So to answer the question, you're saying that you can't say right now, like, what would the future be like, but it's definitely going to be growing, and something new, and some new business will occur. Tesla will be doing something.
I think crazy new businesses are going to occur. There's going to be crazy opportunities. There's opportunities first of all, there's going to be opportunities for everyone to do amazing things. And I think there's going to be so much goods and services produced at such low cost that if you don't want to work, you're not going to have to, and you're going to live a comfortable life. And I will say, let me take a side note to talk about Thailand in particular.
Okay.
And I don't know if I've said this to you before. Maybe I have. There's a short to medium term. And in the short to medium term, I see things like Cybercab, Tesla's robo-taxis, and Tesla Optimus being very big in a country like the United States. But if Optimus is able to deliver labor at $2 an hour, okay, Hokroi baht.
Yeah.
Hokroi baht nung shamon Hokroi baht. There's
No,
lots of
$2 is 60 baht.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Hoksib baht.
60 baht an hour. Yeah.
Hoksib baht for nung shamon.
Hokroi is a lot. I
Okay.
would work for Hokroi an hour. Yeah.
Okay, but let's say that Optimus is able to do work for Hoksib baht per hour. That means that 7 won't hire Optimus. Because the guys who work in 7 are making less than Hoksib baht an hour.
Okay, yes.
The guy who's working as the parking attendant is making less than Hoksib baht an hour.
Okay.
There's a lot of people working in Thailand who are making less than Hoksib baht an hour.
Okay.
And Hoksib baht might be optimistic. Sorry, for those who are speaking English, Hoksib is 60.
Yeah, $2.
60 baht. Is
Again,
Optimus...
you get the efficiency, you get the trust.
But here's the thing. If Optimus can do $20 an hour work in America, okay, are you going to send Optimus to Thailand to make $3 an hour? Or are you going to put... So I think we're heading towards a future where the countries that adopt the technology become radically more productive, radically quickly. They generate a lot of internal demand, and then they have more demand for these robots. And a country like Thailand, which I'm sorry, I'll be a little critical of the Thai government. I want to be careful, but a country like Thailand that rejected Starlink, okay, that has not allowed FSD yet, does not allow Tesla's FSD yet, has not allowed Grok in the car, does not allow the green light chime. If you're in a Tesla and you're sitting at a traffic light in America and you're driving, the light turns green, the Tesla goes bing to let you know the light has turned green.
Yep.
That feature does not work in a Tesla in Thailand. For some reason, the Thai government has not allowed Tesla to implement features in Thailand that it allows in America and other countries. So if Thailand's government is resistant to new technology, and the benefit of that new technology is already less to the company making the technology, like I don't see... I think that, and it's not just Thailand. I think it's Malaysia. I think it's Vietnam. I think it's India. Many countries will fall farther behind. The digital divide is going to grow radically.
Yes.
Because America is going to become much more productive. China will adopt all the technology. China does not want to be left behind. China is going to adopt every technology that's offered. So China is going to grow radically fast. Japan will probably... Hard to say. I think Japan has so many labor shortages in so many ways that they'll adopt robo-taxi for places that don't have human drivers. They'll adopt Optimus rather than bring in foreigners because they don't like foreigners. And Optimus, they probably like Optimus and they probably don't like foreigners. So I think Japan might grow very quickly. I think Europe will stagnate because Europe will reject the technology.
Because
Europe is just crazy. They're nuts. They regulate everything.
They actually need robots. People there don't want to work.
Yeah, but their governments are crazy. They're turning down tremendous The president of France, Emmanuel Macron, just said, we are investing 30 million euros over the next 5 years in the development of these 5 areas of technology. Like, did he say 30 million? 30 million euros?
No, it's a billion, no?
No, he said million. It's in a post on X.
30 million.
30 million. And I was like, that's my town's budget. My hometown in Guilderland, New York. That's less than my town's budget for 1 year. The government of France is going to spend 30 million. It was like, I had to check.
I didn't hear that, but that sounds surprisingly small.
I had to check to make sure it wasn't like a parrot. Like there's accounts that are fake accounts. Like, is this really the president of, it was really him.
Yeah.
He really said, I was like, does he know like how dumb that sounds? There's that famous moment in the movie Austin Powers. Where Dr. Evil has been brought back from, hibernation or whatever after 30 years. And he makes this big demand of the world governments. We're holding you hostage. And we want $1 million. And everybody's like, million. That's gotta be more.
Yeah.
Okay, $1 billion. For
the whole world.
He said 30 million euros. And it's like, he doesn't even know that. Like Aptera, there's a company called Aptera that claims they're going to make a 3-wheeled EV that sort of looks like a cockroach. It's got like a solar shell. Okay, and they've been burning money for years, and they've had many fools invest money. I'm sorry, but people invest in Aptera are just fools. You're just suckers. They've raised like $50 million for this ridiculous fail. They built 5 prototypes.
For a failed project. Raised
in like
more
10
money
years,
than
they built like
France
5
invested.
prototypes.
Yeah.
And France is going to invest less in 5 years across these broad areas
Okay.
than than just regular people invested in this stupid company that makes something that's never going to succeed.
Okay, I get your point in Europe. I think we can talk about that all day, but
Yeah. But I just
I want to bring you back to Tesla a little
Yes,
bit.
sir.
Yeah. So let's talk about the merger. Let's bring merger into the question because I'm going to start with this conspiracy, Warren, theory.
I love conspiracy theories.
Conspiracy theory. What was going around right now a lot on the internet is that when we talk about robo-taxi and why it's not going on wide release yet, and you mentioned that Tesla is waiting for this new release that's 10 times better, right? Okay, that makes sense. But there's another theory. People are saying that with the merger of SpaceX and xAI, and if they're going to merge with Tesla, there's an incentive for Elon to keep the Tesla stock price low because he owned more percentage of the new company of SpaceX and xAI more than Tesla. So if they do merge, if the value of Tesla is low versus high on the SpaceX, then Elon's control of the new company will be higher. So there's this conspiracy theory going around that's the reason why Elon's trying to suppress Tesla stock right now. What's your thought?
I don't think Elon spends a lot of time worrying about the Tesla stock price. It makes sense. Okay, the conspiracy theory makes sense in the sense that Elon owns a larger share of SpaceX than he owns of Tesla. And probably the merger with xAI gave him an even larger stake in SpaceX because he had an even larger share of xAI than he had of SpaceX. He owns somewhere 40 to 50%. I think it's less than 50%, but he owns more than 40%, I think, of SpaceX. And he owns about 20% of Tesla. So it would make sense if you thought Elon was worried about his control. And he has talked about his concerns about control, but the practical reality is whenever Elon wants to do anything with Tesla and they have a shareholder vote, 75% of shareholders vote yes. So where's and he's increasing his stake in Tesla through the new options package. So he'll probably be at 25%. I don't think that's something that would motivate him. I can't say for sure. I mean, I think the issue with the merger is this.
Okay.
What are I leave out this conspiracy theory stuff because I don't see Elon being motivated that. I can't say he's not motivated that way. I don't think he thinks that way.
But it definitely benefits him. Like, it makes sense, right? If the merger is real,
his net worth is already approaching $1 trillion. How much more does he need? Does he need more?
Okay, so
I don't think he's motivated by that. He's motivated by accomplishing missions. Okay, he has goals that he wants to achieve that are real world goals. I mean, sometimes they're AI world goals, but they're real. They're not like how much money he has or how much his wealth is measured, right? He has. I have this joke that when he reaches $1 trillion net worth, the simulation resets. Right, the simulation ends because he's reached that. Like, that's the game. Like, the game is, when does he reach $1 trillion? I don't think that's what's really going on.
Okay.
So I think that he has certain goals that he wants to achieve. He wants to develop a benign artificial general intelligence that doesn't want to destroy humanity and that wants to seek truth. He wants to get humanity to Mars. He wants to He wants to make life better on Earth for people. He wants to transition us to sustainable energy. He wants to cure brain diseases. He has certain things that he's done. You can just see objectively, these are things that he's been working on. So what achieves the goals more effectively? So then you have to say, okay, let's suppose SpaceX and Tesla merge. What are the benefits of the merger and what are the risks and costs of the merger? So my opinion, and there's this community of people who are influencers who talk about SpaceX and especially Tesla. I don't think the SpaceX influencers have been saying as much about this. I haven't seen them talk about this as much.
It's a private company, so there's definitely less people.
No, but there's influencers who talk about SpaceX a lot. Okay, and the Tesla community is people who've invested in the company. The SpaceX influencers are more interested in the technology.
Okay.
In the early days of Tesla, the influencers were more interested in the technology than the stock.
There's
a little bit of both, but I think that there's been a turn towards the stock in the influencer community. So anyway, in the influencer community, I would say the majority of people think that a merger would be great. And when they talk about the benefits, my opinion is they exaggerate the benefits and they minimize or don't talk about the risks.
Okay.
So the first benefit that you will hear them say is, well, there'll be synergies because Tesla will be able to use Grok in the cars and the robots. But Tesla already uses Grok in the cars. They don't have to be the same company for them to cooperate, and Tesla already used Grok in the cars. They've already been using Grok in the cars.
Do they have to pay xAI for that?
They have. Maybe they give xAI access to data from their cars as a trade. I don't really know, and I don't really care. Okay. If they become the same company, there's still internal costs.
Okay,
it's still an internal transaction. You still have to account for that from an accounting perspective. There may be some benefit to it, but the practical reality is Grok is in the cars already. Elon has said for a long time Grok will be in the robot. I think Grok is already on the robots that they're building, right? So that's already there. But there's this idea of synergies, and there's a guy, Larry Goldberg, who is one of my favorite influencers in the Tesla community, and he believes it's a good thing. And he wrote this article, and he talked about the synergies. And I think 4 out of the 5, he's like, well, we can have these functional groups that will, work together. 4 of his 5 functional groups were
already working together.
This group is already within SpaceX.
Okay.
This group is already within Tesla. There's no SpaceX in this group. There's no Tesla in this group. So, and there's this term synergy. So for your Thai audience, the word synergy or synergies is a very popular term in the business community to justify a merger. We have these synergies. It's like putting these 2 companies together will create these additional benefits that the sum of the parts is greater than the whole.
Yeah. Synergy basically means when you add 1 to 1, it's greater than 2.
It might be 2.5.
Yeah, 2.5 greater. Yeah, the benefits. Yeah.
So the problem is that if you look at mergers throughout history, there'll be 2 companies that merge and they say there's these great synergies, and then the merger doesn't go well. There's no guarantee that the merger, there are conflicting cultures within companies. I think that because Elon is the head of both companies, the cultures are more similar.
Okay.
But there's risks that the synergies don't turn out to be good. There may be a benefit in the 2 companies competing with each other for certain goals rather than the 2 companies working together for certain goals. It's very hard to say. But it's like you just say the word synergy and synergy. It's like a magic wand. Poof, synergy. Like, what does that exactly mean? How? And like Larry was saying, okay, they can use Tesla's factories to make components for SpaceX. Like SpaceX already makes their own components. They're already very good at it. And Tesla doesn't make those components. So Tesla's going to have to learn how to make those components. I don't think that's needed. Okay. I don't think that synergy is there. So there's a lot of synergy, and you dig in, you say, well, what exactly are these synergies? And look, people inside the companies, they may see benefits that we don't. We're outsiders. We don't really know what's going on inside the companies to the same extent the people inside. So the people inside may see synergies we don't see that are real. But I don't see that the synergies are obvious. And there's a second point. What are the risks? Okay. And Larry talked about one, which is the U.S. government might not like the merger. There's U.S. government agencies that, again, involve, I think, the FTC, the Committee on Foreign Investment. There's different agencies within the U.S. government that might say, hey, we need to take a look at this. The California government might say they have a problem because both companies operate in California. I don't know how many different, the European governments might get involved and say, we don't like this for some reason. How many different government entities are you going to have to deal with to get this merger to go through? Okay. And what are the risks that one or more of them say no? How much managerial resources are going to go into getting the merger done as opposed to getting the mission done? Right? There's a lot of issues there, but there's one big one that I'm the only one who's talking about. Sorry, I think Cern Basher replied to me and said he's also talked about this. Tesla's biggest factory is in China. SpaceX, one of SpaceX's largest missions is to build things for the U.S. military to counter China, to constrain China, to control China, to prevent China from growing. Is
that fact or conspiracy?
There's no question about Starshield. SpaceX is building a parallel to Starlink, the Starshield satellites. SpaceX launches satellites for the military, and the U.S. military spies on China. I don't think there's any question that that's true.
Not conspiracy, it's fact.
There's no question that that's true.
Okay.
So at some point, the Chinese government might not like that.
But is Chinese government aware that that's what SpaceX is doing?
Of course they are. I'm sure they have people they're trying to get their spies into working for these companies.
But
why they probably have some.
Why are they still friendly to Elon then?
Because, well, first of all, there's a couple things about that. But the point is that right now Tesla and SpaceX are separate.
Yes, but the owner is one person.
it's the
Elon manages
leader,
well, right?
The leader of the companies is
he's
one
managing
person.
it well, right? Okay.
So I just think that the argument for the Chinese government, here's the fear. The fear is that SpaceX and Tesla merge, and the Chinese government doesn't like the merger. And the Chinese government says, that's a nice factory you have there in Shanghai. Tesla's most productive factory, Tesla's most valuable factory.
Let's turn it into a Chinese brand.
We're taking it. We're shutting it down. We're taking it. A massive hit. Is it a long-term problem for Tesla's long-term robo-taxi Optimus model? No. But is it a massive hit in the short term? Yes. That's a very, very large risk.
Yeah.
And other than CERN Basher, I haven't seen anybody talk about that. Okay. And I'll say this. You say, why doesn't the Chinese government worry about Elon? Elon will criticize Trump. He'll criticize Biden, Kamala Harris, U.S. senators, U.S. congressmen. He'll criticize European politicians. He'll criticize Brazilian politicians. I have never seen Elon criticize the Chinese government once. Elon knows I can't cross that line. Everybody thinks Elon's a loose cannon. He says whatever. I have never seen Elon say anything negative. In fact, if anything, he has leaned toward, China will eventually take Taiwan.
Has there been a scenario where he was forced to make comment in the past? I never followed this closely, so I never really know Elon's.
Elon has been asked about Taiwan, and Elon has said, eventually China will take Taiwan.
Okay. What about on the other topics? Apart from that, has he shown support?
I don't think he's been asked about that. I just think he's been asked about Taiwan specifically, and he said he thinks. I think you have to understand something about China versus. This is one of those challenges that I think Thai people probably know this already, and Americans don't. Maybe Thai people don't see it.
Yeah.
I think the Chinese economy is bigger than the U.S. economy.
Already now.
Yes. So they generate more electricity significantly.
Not according to U.S. GDP's measure.
Sure, but China. So there's different ways of measuring things.
Yeah. Okay. Please.
But they generate more electricity. That is a pretty important part of your economy. They generate a lot more electricity. Okay, and they're growing much faster. They add more electricity generation a year than the U.S. uses.
So they're going to double in U.S. every year.
I think that by the end of next year, they may have triple the electricity generation of the United States. I'm in the ballpark. Maybe double, maybe triple, maybe it's another year. And then one of the things, Tesla makes a product called the Tesla Semi, which we don't talk about it much. I don't talk about Tesla Energy that much. They make mega packs and all that. I think those are nice businesses. I don't think they reach the value of Robotaxi or Optimus, but they're important businesses. So when I've studied Tesla Semi, which is a large, big truck that pulls 40,000 tons, right? 40 tons.
That one's important?
I think it's important for the global economy in a variety of ways, but the key distinction is the demand for those trucks in China is 4x the demand for those trucks in North America.
So there's a lot of things moving in China.
Their economy, for some reason, uses 4 times as many heavy trucks as the U.S. economy.
And it's not the inefficiency reason.
No. I'm pretty sure their economy is more efficient than the U.S. economy.
Okay. So they use 4 times more.
The point is just that they're manufacturing more by far. They're moving stuff
a lot more
by more. They're using more energy. That's and how many cities do they have that are like really large with lots of people I think that China's economy is massively underestimated, and I think China is already a larger and more important economy of the world. China is certainly I think China is certainly a more important economy for Thailand than the U.S. economy.
Okay.
I
mean, in terms of trades, we're quite balanced right now, but in terms of growing, with China having more.
It's closer.
Yeah.
I like my personal experience with Chinese products is on Lazada. and Shopee, and I honestly think
that's Amazon in Asia, by the way.
Yeah, there's an online shopping websites in Thailand called Lazada, Lazada, and Shopee, Shopee. And my personal opinion, first of all, Amazon is a better shopping website than both of them by far. The reviews are more reliable. The general quality is more consistent. The shipping reliability is better. But with that said, you can buy really great stuff really cheap on Lazada.
Now you're experiencing it in Thailand.
But what I've noticed is when you're shopping on Lazada, I don't shop on Shopee as much. When I shop on Lazada, you can see where is it coming from. And if it's coming from China, I don't buy it. because I never know when it's going to get here, and the quality is much more iffy. And then I never know if it's even going to ship. I only buy stuff on Lazada if it's coming from Thailand.
But that's the question of shipping. But what if you actually
No,
have
it's not just shipping. It's I think
the goods too?
I think the quality of the merchandise coming from China is more suspect. I think the quality of merchandise from Australia or America or most European countries is higher quality than. I think there's I have like a.
I think that's a topic for another day. But
I'm saying their economy. There are aspects of the Chinese economy I don't like.
Okay. Despite the size, you're saying there's some
aspects that I don't like. Okay. There's some aspects of the U.S. economy that I don't like. I'm just saying that on the whole, though, the Chinese economy is pretty clearly bigger.
Yeah.
And I forget the brand. It's not Huawei. It's another brand. There's a really big Chinese brand that makes air purifiers.
Xiaomi,
right? Yeah. And they make great air purifiers. I have like 2 or 3 Xiaomi air purifiers. Yeah. Now maybe they're spying on me, and I don't know.
They're making cars now too.
I'm not as impressed by the cars, but the Xiaomi, the electronics. I needed. What did I need? I needed some product, and I couldn't find it in Power Buy, and I couldn't find it at this place or that place, and I went to the Xiaomi store, and they had one. I forget what it was off the top of my head. They have everything. They just have so much. I think that I have this idea of building a single passenger EV, and I'm trying to hire a young Thai engineer to come work for me to help build this EV, and. At this point, I'm kind of close to saying I should just go to China and find some shop in China that will just build it for me.
Yeah.
Right? It'd probably be cheaper than having it built in Thailand.
Okay.
I'd probably get like 2 or 3 prototypes done in 3 months, where it would take me a year to get the same thing done in Thailand, and it would cost me less money. The Chinese economy is that good at getting things done. So I think that Americans have no idea how big and agile the Chinese economy is. Not to say that there aren't flaws, not to say there aren't weaknesses. And maybe there's something I'm missing. Maybe there's too many subsidies from the government. At some point it collapses. But right now it looks like, wow, they make a lot of stuff, and they're really good at moving stuff around. And they really generate a lot of electricity. And that's essential to having a big economy. The U.S. economy is not growing electricity generation.
I'm actually going to go off topic a little bit here,
Sure.
but there's some things I want to share with you and the audience. I think it can help explain the goods and service. The reason why you don't like buying them on Lazada, Chinese stuff, is that it's a real story from my house that we're using, for example, a water boiler, at home.
Yeah.
We used to use a Japanese brand, Warren. And it's been there for 15 years. Like every, 3 years it will break down.
Yeah.
And we call some engineering to fix it. They can fix it. Japanese stuff is very durable. Every 3 years
I love Japanese products.
It's so durable that like
Hitachi, Sharp, whatever.
Yeah, you can fix it. It will stay with you 10, 15 years. Whereas a Chinese water boiler, it might stay with you 4 years.
And then you just throw it out.
And you can't fix it. Yeah. You bring their engineer and they come in and be like, buy a new one.
Yeah.
You can't fix this. Yeah. So I think it's different mentality where now the Chinese, they're producing so much at scale that they're not trying to build endurable products. They're building it in the mindset that if it breaks, you throw away, you buy a new one. Yeah. So
that's very American, by the way. That's very common in America.
Okay.
Your TV breaks, you just chuck it and buy a new TV.
But you see how different than the Japanese, right? When they build some product, they're like, they really think hard of the endurable. So they're trying to design by all metrics, but Chinese are not. So I don't know. What's your take? I mean, like, I can see why you're saying that you would not buy things on Lazada because you don't believe in.
I won't buy things from China on Lazada.
Yeah.
I mean, I would buy Xiaomi from the Xiaomi store. That's one of the things about Lazada.
Oh, so you're talking about the platform. You don't have questions about their products. You talk about the platform that.
When I have a choice of buying a product that's made in Thailand, that's coming from a Thai vendor, and a product that's coming from a Chinese vendor, I will always choose the Thai vendor. And then people don't know this. There are stores on Lazada, and so Xiaomi has an official store. And I bought like a blood pressure machine from some European company or whatever. No, it was a Japanese company. And you'll see like 20 different variations of this machine somewhere else. I always buy it from the official store because there's fake merch.
Yes, there are.
There's a lot of fake merch. Like this doesn't really happen on.
That's why Amazon is better on this case.
It may exist, but you don't really have as much fake merch on Amazon. There's a lot of fake merch on Lazada. That low, unreliable quality. And like a really good example is I buy protein powder to improve protein in my diet, or I buy creatine monohydrate to.
There are a lot of fake things out there.
And like I learned No, buy it from the official store or buy it from iHerb instead of from Lazada. Yeah.
Because there's some things that price don't make sense.
When you're eating it, you want it to be good.
Yeah.
You don't want to eat something that's not good. I don't think I got anything bad. I don't think anything made me sick. But like long term, I decided it's important to get good quality.
I'm sorry to go off topic, but let's come back to Tesla merger.
Sure.
So you explained now the risk that only a few influencers talk about. Like you said, CERN Basher.
Only CERN.
Yeah, only CERN has talked about it. So to be clear right now, the IPO of SpaceX is coming in 4 months from now.
It's expected to be June.
It's expected to be June. What's the chance right now, as of now, you think that the Tesla will get merged into that deal? What's the chance?
I think it's very unlikely because Tesla is a publicly traded company. So you have to notify the shareholders that the merger has been proposed. You have to give the shareholders a certain amount of time. You have to then schedule a meeting and have the vote. You have to prepare the documents for the merger. Right, you have to have all this stuff prepared, so it takes time to do all that. And then you have U.S. government agencies and maybe European government agencies, maybe state agencies saying, "Wait a minute, we don't want you to merge yet." So, I think the only way that the merger happens is SpaceX IPOs first.
Okay, so not within this 4 months. You think chance very low.
And I should say, by the way, I have a personal stake in the merger. If a merger is going to happen, it happens after SpaceX IPOs. If it happens before, I have options. Something like 5 to 10% of my Tesla stock holdings are in Tesla options, 2-year call options. If they merge before, I think there's a really strong chance that my options go to zero.
If they become a private company before the merge.
My options go to zero. It's not that simple, but I think there's a real risk that my options go to zero. So I have a personal stake in it not happening that way. So that I have a bias. I don't think it matters what my bias is. I think the practical reality, I just want to give that out there so people know that I do have a bias when I say it. I don't think you can merge a publicly traded company. Not that you can't. I think it's unlikely you'll be able to execute the merger before June. So I think the thing that makes sense is that SpaceX has its IPO. And then there's another thing we haven't talked about. Why are they doing all this? Why would SpaceX IPO? For a long time, Elon said that SpaceX wasn't going to IPO. They were going to IPO Starlink. And
that's my first question in the interview, that Elon, we didn't hear about this all along. Elon hated it. And all of a sudden with the turn, everything goes so fast. And now xAI and SpaceX merge in lightning speed.
So I think one of the reasons for the merger is because they're going to IPO SpaceX. Having xAI within SpaceX makes SpaceX more valuable for the IPO. I don't think having Tesla inside SpaceX necessarily adds meaningful value for a variety of reasons. So when you do the IPO, you raise cash. You sell stock in your company, and new investors come in, and you raise. I think they're going to raise in the ballpark of $50 billion. Okay, and if you want to build AI data satellites, AI data center satellites, and you want to, there's other things you want to do, you need cash. Now, Starlink is generating cash, but it may not be generating cash fast enough for their financial goals. Robo-taxi will start generating cash, but it's not going to generate enough cash for Tesla's financial goals in the short term. I think by the end of 2027, robo-taxi is starting to generate a lot of cash, and Tesla has a lot of cash. So I think you want to generate a certain amount of capital so you can do a certain kinds of investment. I think that the need for Terafab, for Tesla's fab, I don't think that capital spending starts until late 2027, early 2028. And by that point, Tesla's going to be generating enough cash. It's not a problem. And they can borrow against the CFO actually said this in the earnings call, that if they're pushed and they need to raise money, they can borrow against robo-taxi revenue or Optimus revenue. That they've already talked to banks about that prospect. So the Tesla SpaceX merger doesn't generate cash. It generates complexity. It generates expenses. It costs. How much money do you spend on the process of doing the merger? You probably spend a couple $1 billion just putting.
Really, billions?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, how many lawyers are you going to have to pay? How many lawsuits are there going to be? How much is this going to cost? It's going to be crazy. How many regulatory agencies? How many lawyers are you going to have to hire to go talk to how many different regulatory agencies and how many different countries? I think there's a really, really large cost to that merger.
Okay. So you don't see it happening. Are you putting it as below 10% or above 10% here?
It's probably above 10% just because so many of my friends are talking. I don't think it makes sense.
Okay.
But Elon is smarter than me, and if Elon wants it done, it'll be
but
done.
But you agree that the majority out there, people are viewing it at definitely more than 10%. They're thinking like
I said,
70%.
I think that the people who are advocating for this merger are exaggerating the benefits of the merger and minimizing the risks, or not even talking about the key risks.
Okay.
And I think the China risk is huge.
Yep.
I think the European regulatory bodies interfering is huge. The U.S. government agencies interfering is huge. California state government interfering. There's so many different, and the idea that they need to merge in order to work together is like Tesla and SpaceX have been working together for, I think, in the ballpark of 20 years.
Yeah.
The steel for Cybertruck was developed by the SpaceX material science team. Falcon 9 rockets use Tesla batteries. They have always collaborated, and they will always. Elon's companies always collaborate.
Yeah.
So I think the benefits of the merger are exaggerated. It's pretty clear though. Elon has talked about Tesla and SpaceX are both going to make solar cells. They're both going to manufacture. Now he didn't say Tesla and SpaceX are going to manufacture solar cells together. They're going to independently manufacture solar cells. And this is one of the things that people don't understand about Elon's. One of the ways Elon thinks. And I'm going to touch on something. Let me just take a step back really quick. When Tesla opened its factory in Berlin, I thought they should have opened a factory in Osaka, in Japan. If you told Japan, and Elon would say, we're having this factory compete against this factory to see how quickly they can get this done. If you tell European engineers that they're competing with Chinese engineers, the Chinese engineers are motivated, the European engineers are not. But if you tell Japanese engineers that they're competing with Chinese engineers, those Japanese engineers, they're not going to sleep. And the Chinese engineers, we're competing against Japanese engineers. They're not going to sleep either. So you're really generating a lot of interest. Yeah. So I think when you look at, SpaceX and Tesla are both going to build solar cells. Well, do you want them doing it together, or do you want them to compete with each other? You tell the Tesla engineers they're competing with the SpaceX.
That's why you said synergy is tricky in a way. Sometimes
who can come up with a better way of making the solar cells, and we'll have some crossover, and we'll see what each other's learning. But let's have a competition to see who can make the solar cells best, right? I think that there may be some value in having them compete with each other that is underestimated. Like collaborating, putting two teams together doesn't necessarily make the teams more productive. It might make them less productive. And Elon knows that. Elon knows that having small teams competing with each other can be more effective than having one team working together. So who's right? Who's wrong? I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty confident that the merger does not make sense. I can see that there are benefits. I just think that the benefits are overstated and the risks are too high.
Okay.
And there's too much complexity, and like, how much time do you want management to spend doing this merger? Okay. Versus let's make stuff work. I think you want to focus on making stuff work.
I think that's a great point. And thanks for being clear on your view. Let's talk about the money raising. One of the benefit of going to public for SpaceX is to raise funds, as you said, to fund this data center in space, which required a lot of capital. But a question was raised from our Tesla investor dinner the other night. One of the person asked that he looked up online, and I checked this with Gemini. SpaceX, hopefully Gemini is right. SpaceX IPO is only going to raise, going to let 3% of the stocks traded in the IPO. So they're only raising funds for 3%, which even though it's going to be valued at 1.5 trillion, it's only going to raise like 50 billion.
Yeah, only. Think about that. What did you just say? It's only going to raise 50 billion. Only?
I mean, it's a large amount of money, but in terms of percentage, it's very low for 3%. So 50 billion is a lot,
wouldn't it be the largest IPO in history?
But for 50 billion, would you go through all the access to go through IPO and all that? Like, wouldn't that be
It's the largest IPO in history. Why are you saying it's too small?
Okay, but the theory that we had on a question was like, what is it really cash that SpaceX need? Or is there some incentive out there that Elon's trying to...
No, there are. Okay, so let's talk about this for
IPO this. Yeah.
So first of all, I think your numbers are... First of all, the numbers can change. You get closer to the IPO date and they see that... I think the demand for buying SpaceX stock is going to be so large that they're going to issue more stock at a higher price.
Okay.
Like if they're talking about a $1.5 trillion valuation, it'll probably end up being $2 trillion. and maybe they'll offer 5%. And now all of a sudden you're talking about
$100 billion,
$100 billion, something like that. I think you see that with IPOs. As they get closer to the IPO, they reprice, they reconsider, and they do things. One of the reasons for the IPO, and one of the reasons why originally it was going to be a Starlink IPO, is you have investors who invested in SpaceX like 2004, 2005, 2008, whatever. You have employees who've accumulated a lot of stock, and it's tied up, and it's the word illiquid, right? If I hold SpaceX Tesla stock and I want to sell it tomorrow, I sell it tomorrow. It sells in a minute.
Yeah.
But if you have SpaceX stock, it's hard to sell. There are ways of selling. There's a website called Equities End Shares Post. You probably have to pay a high percentage. It may be hard to find a buyer. You may not get the full and fair price for it. So there's all these investors who've had their money tied up in SpaceX for a very long time. The IPO rewards the long-term investors with liquidity for them out. And I heard some story about some guy who invested like $50,000 in SpaceX back in like 2008. I'm going to make up the number. And it's now worth like $300 million. Right? Well, that guy wants to be able to access his capital, right? At some point, you want investors to have a liquidity event so they can get their money out and invest it in something else. So I should talk about something else. So I think it's giving SpaceX investors an opportunity to get liquidity, and it's raising cash for SpaceX for some of its goals. I think those are the two primary things. I will add something else. I've heard Tesla investors say, well, if SpaceX sells stock, then a lot of Tesla investors are going to sell Tesla stock to buy SpaceX.
Yep, there's an also. Yeah.
Okay, so Tesla is let's call it $1.3 trillion company. Okay, SpaceX is going to sell $30 billion in stock. Okay, how many, and what percentage of the stock that SpaceX sells will go to Tesla investors? 10%? Maybe Tesla investors get 10% of the
yeah, maybe 10, 20, yeah.
Let's call it 10.
Okay.
So that means that Tesla investors will be buying $3 billion worth of SpaceX stock.
And that amount of selling is not going to affect
It's trivial compared to a $1.3 trillion company. Right?
How much did Elon sell last time?
What?
How much did Elon sell last time for Twitter?
No idea.
Okay, but I'm just trying to compare.
Much more than that.
Much more than that, right? Because last time when Elon sell, it did have a big effect. But
Now, the other thing I'll say is, suppose you believe the merger is going to happen after the IPO. And we haven't talked about this yet. One of the things that Alexandra Tesla Boomer Mama said and Larry Goldberg said is that you have the IPO and then you have the merger and SpaceX acquires Tesla. And SpaceX will pay a premium. It'll be stock for stock, but the Tesla stock will be valued at a premium to its actual share price. So if Tesla stock is trading at $400 a share, the transaction will happen as if Tesla stock is worth $500 a share. Now, as a Tesla shareholder, I'm in. You're going to give me 25% return.
of course.
Sure. Does that make sense for SpaceX shareholders?
No, there'll be a riot over there.
Maybe. Maybe they might not like that. So I think that's an issue that people don't address as well. When you work the numbers, like, wait a minute. As a and me personally, as a Tesla shareholder, yeah, my stock is trading at $400 a share, but I think it's going to be worth $2,500 in 2 years. Like, am I really excited about that? Now, I think it's still going to go up a lot if it's in SpaceX. There's a lot of good things happening in SpaceX, but this is another critical point. You are a Tesla shareholder, and there's a SpaceX IPO, and the SpaceX stock is now publicly traded, and you can buy SpaceX stock. You can decide, I want to be 90% Tesla, 10% SpaceX. I want to be 90% SpaceX and 10% Tesla. I want to be 50-50. You have that freedom if they're both publicly traded companies.
I agree. I think that's
if there's an acquisition, you only get a fixed ratio.
Yeah, and it's not.
If you wanted
it's not designed by you; it's by the market.
Right. If you wanted to be 90% Tesla and 10% SpaceX, that's not an option.
You cannot.
You're 50. Call it 50-50.
Yeah.
You're fixed at 50-50. Right. So I think that many investors might say, I'd rather they stayed separate. So once SpaceX IPOs, I can buy this one at this price. But I will say this: if you believe they are going to merge after the IPO, then don't sell any Tesla stock to buy stock in the IPO, because you're going to sell your stock at $400 a share to buy into the IPO, and then SpaceX is going to acquire your stock at $500 a share. So why would you sell at $400 if you believe the merger is going to happen and you're going to get $500 a share then?
So if you truly believe you're going to merge, as a Tesla stock, you're saying there's no worries at the moment, because even if they don't merge yet, eventually it will merge. The price will get benefits anyway. In the short term, if you want to sell to go there, the amount of selling you already calculated, it's not going to be.
You can't sell that much.
Yeah, it's not going to be that scary. Yeah. Any more thoughts on this?
Well, just this key point.
Yeah.
One of the questions I frequently get asked is, "Hey Warren, when SpaceX IPOs, are you going to sell Tesla stock to buy SpaceX?" And my answer is first leaving out the merger question.
Okay.
If
this is both public trading company.
If I thought the merger was going to happen, there's no way I'd sell any stock because SpaceX is going to give me more for my stock, and I'm going to get SpaceX stock anyway. So why would I bother selling Tesla stock at a lower valuation? But the underlying question is, would I sell Tesla stock to buy SpaceX stock? The answer is probably I would sell some. But I need to read when you have an IPO, you get documents. I haven't read the documents yet. I don't know what their projections are for the success of the company, what the share price is going to be. I don't make this decision until I see the numbers.
Because there's still a lot of data out of SpaceX that we need to see, right? That we haven't. It hasn't been publicly.
And I've had opportunities to invest in SpaceX multiple times. I shouldn't say that. I've had opportunities. I've been invited to invest in something that I'm told would be invested in SpaceX stock. And I've generally said no because the fees were very high. And then I didn't have full confidence that it wasn't like I was getting SpaceX stock. It wasn't like I was investing in a fund that holds SpaceX stock. It was like I would be investing in a fund that invests in a fund that invests in SpaceX stock. And the number of fees and expenses, and then like, do I really know that this guy who's selling me this thing is genuine and isn't selling me a scam? Like, I don't know how to value that. But when I buy Tesla stock through my brokerage, I get Tesla stock.
Yeah.
I don't worry about that.
Yeah.
And if I need to sell Tesla stock, I just sell Tesla stock.
If you
sold in a minute.
You might be stuck in.
But if I do this and I lock up 10% of my net worth into a company, then I don't know when he's going to. Now, maybe you look at it and say, Warren, if you had done that 3 years ago, you would have 5x'd your money. Yeah. Okay.
You've done it with Tesla.
But like, how much would I have paid in management fees? How much would I pay in carried interest? That 5x ends up being a 3x, and maybe at that moment I already got a 3x. Maybe the stock was trading at 108 at that time. Yeah. Right. I'm already I'm at a 4x on Tesla. Yeah. I just didn't. I haven't trusted. And the same thing with. I would like to invest in Neuralink. I would like to invest in the Boring Company. I haven't seen the right opportunity to do that yet. But the short answer to that question is, I'm not making a decision about how much to invest in a SpaceX IPO until I see the documents. I think it's crazy to talk about. Oh, I would definitely invest. I would sell 10% of my Tesla stock and buy SpaceX stock. Like, well, I don't like. I want to read the documents and see what they're saying is happening.
I agree with you. I think those people who are giving percentage is sort of like just thinking in the ballpark of sort of like what sort of project of Elon's that he's going to be exposing to, rather than from the valuation and the details standpoint. Yeah. I think that's very clear. I think thank you for sharing a lot in deep details and thought, Warren. I have one final question for you to wrap it off, and you can compare SpaceX and Tesla business here in this question. Elon said that in 30 months, we'll be building space in data center in space. So that's the end of 2030. Around
30 months is less than that. 30 months is 2028, 2029.
Okay. But let me give Elon just a couple years more. Let's say by the end of 2030, what's your view? If both company doesn't merge and they're both publicly traded, what would be the valuation of Tesla and SpaceX separately in 2030? Your thought?
I think Tesla is a $20 trillion company or larger by 2030. I don't feel like I understand SpaceX's business model well enough to project that. I think that Starlink will be the Starlink part, the satellite network. I think that's going to be a $3 trillion company by 2030. My earlier projections were like $1 trillion, but I think they've demonstrated some growth. They've got some interesting things going on. So I think they might be a $2 or $3 trillion company. I don't know how to value the AI space data center satellite business. I don't know how to value the digital human, the macro hard digital human. I don't know how to value. I have a really good sense of how to value robo-taxi and Optimus. If you believe Elon, the digital humans are worth $1 trillion, like a year in revenue, right? It's like a crazy valuation. So
times that divided
trillions of dollars in revenue. And the thing is, then there's the question of, like we talked about before, how quickly does the market adapt to this available resource of digital humans who can do work for you? And how quickly do companies adopt digital humans? How quickly do startups compete with existing companies through digital humans? How much do governments interfere with the startups that are using digital humans to compete with because there are some countries, possibly a country that we're in right now, where there are oligopolies that control certain industries. And they don't want competition, and they use the government to prevent competition. Like, for some reason, we don't have Starlink in Thailand, even though 160 countries have Starlink. It's possible that there are companies in Thailand that have undue influence over the government and prevented Starlink from being available. And I think the same thing is true in many countries, especially in Europe and even in the United States. Utility companies are very, very good at preventing competition in the United States. So I think there's a lot of hurdles to turning what Elon envisions for xAI and SpaceX now into actual revenue at scale. I don't doubt Elon's ability to do that stuff, but does it happen as quickly as he says? We'll see.
Okay. Can you say that the business that Elon's doing with Tesla is more would face less difficulties in your view versus xAI and SpaceX, right?
I don't think. First of all, the robo-taxi path is pretty clear and established in the U.S. I think China, the profit story in China is a little tough, but the profit story of robo-taxi in the United States, half of the country, is pretty clear. Optimus faces less regulation than robo-taxi. Optimus will be legal anywhere in the country, in the United States, probably in Canada, unless governments actively decide to adopt new laws. It's basically a piece of consumer electronics. I mean,
and in terms of engineering work, SpaceX is going to be facing a lot more challenges.
I think that I think SpaceX is really good at building satellites. They're building Starlinks at scale. They're building the antennas for the ground antennas for Starlinks at scale. I think SpaceX is really good at building that stuff. I think,
but versus Tesla doing robotaxi,
Tesla is good at building large complex machines that move. But satellites don't really move, right? They're like electronics on a platform. So I think that what Tesla manufactures is more difficult to manufacture at scale. I think that what SpaceX manufactures might be easier to manufacture at scale, and SpaceX is already really good at manufacturing that stuff. They're already manufacturing that stuff at scale. So in terms of manufacturing at scale, SpaceX, I think there's so many opportunities to do cool stuff with the Starlink platform. Like, just a really simple example, what if you put telescopes on Starlinks and put them in orbit around the sun? And you had them coordinate, and you had what's called a very large scale interferometry. I think you could study the universe with basically it's a form of telescope.
Wow.
It might be not lenses. It might be some sort of radio telescope thing. But I think the potential for Starlink to create like amazing astronomy. Because one of xAI's goals is to understand the universe. So if you had really good astronomy, you might understand the universe better. So I think there's a lot of potential for a lot of different things to happen. And it's really hard to predict today where that goes. Like, I don't know how many people are paying for astronomy data, but I think xAI's mission is to understand the universe. So xAI itself might be the customer for that data.
Wow. Okay. Thank you. A lot to unpacked and to see the future. The future is definitely exciting.
Sanuk,
yeah.
Sanuk
so
Mark.
ขอบคุณ Warren Redlich for this session. And any last words for your fans, both globally and in Thailand?
I really appreciate the people who followed me, and everybody who's a content creator gets people who support them and people who like them, and they get criticism. And I really appreciate the people who've been very supportive of me. And I even appreciate the people who have sound, constructive criticism. There's a lot of trolls out there who just, throw bricks at you and they're not useful. But I think just the fact that a lot of people are participating and paying attention to all this stuff, I think it's great for us. It's great for Tesla and SpaceX and the other companies out there that they're interested in this stuff. And I think it's great for the world that we have these thriving investment communities that are effectively helping these companies grow.
Well, I'm glad you're expanding your content making from Tesla now. It's called Warren Redlich, Tesla, Technologies, and Thailand. So I'm excited to see more contents under the third part, the last part about Thailand more. So
I've been posting my Tesla Thailand road trip stuff, and I've been covering. I think you know about this. I've been covering I went to the Thailand Society of Automotive Engineers has an event every year that they work with university teams, teams of students who build cars, and they race them at the Pathum Thani Speedway. And so I spent 3 days getting sunburned at the Pathum Thani Speedway, talking to students, watching them work, watching their cars on the track. And that's videos I posted. When I go somewhere that's, beautiful, I'll take a picture of my Tesla with a nice background or something like that. And Tesla Thailand road trip. That's one of the things I've been posting on X. I haven't done, and I post the videos about the TSAE events on YouTube. They don't get a lot of views, but I enjoy it. It's sort of like I'm there, I'm interested, and I'm using that event to hopefully recruit. I'll just say this. The one thing I'll say is, if you know a young Thai engineer who wants to come to Krabi and build a small EV prototype with me, a toy for some crazy falang ding dong, yak tam iwi lek.
Single passenger รถเล็กสำหรับคนเดียว1คน1 passenger
Nunkon, no steering wheel, no pedals, drives with a joystick, drives with a remote control. I think we can build a prototype in a few months, and then we figure out why it's not very good, and then we figure out how we can make it better, and then we build another prototype, and then we build another prototype. After we build a third or fourth prototype, I do something that very few people can do. I'm saying this, I'm exaggerating when I say this, but I call Elon. And I say, hey, Elon, we want to get I call Tesla. We want to get FSD working on our prototype to see if we can develop a robo-taxi that will make Thailand safer, that will make young Thai people and older Thai people who are currently riding on the back of a scooter, we can give them a safer, cheaper, cleaner ride. And make Thailand great again. Make Thailand safe again. Make Thai roads safer.
Make Thailand safer, yeah.
Make young, because we just saw the results of a scooter crash in Krabi. We were going on one of our normal routes, and then we weren't blocked, but we were turning right, but the road to the left was blocked, and there were 2 scooters on the ground and 2 people on the ground, and people, looking out for them, and I want to see less people dying in scooter crashes and motorcycle crashes, and can we make Thai roads safer? And we start with Thailand, and then maybe we do it in Japan or whatever. But getting a young engineer who wants to build something interesting, somebody who's good with their hands, who likes to put things together, and eventually we may need help, and they help me find we find somebody at Krabi Polytechnic or whatever, Krabi Technical College, to help us do this part or whatever. We figure out how to get it built. We build the first prototype, we build the second, we build the third. By the third or fourth prototype, it doesn't suck that much. And then I say, hey, Elon, can we get FSD on this thing and see if we get it working? And we get a licensing agreement with Tesla. And then we raise money. And if I have an agreement with Tesla to let us use FSD in Thailand on this car we're going to build in Thailand, now I go to America and I raise $50 million. And now we're hiring a team of engineers, and we're getting to a production intent ready EV. Right? And then a year later, we're starting to build these things. And the Thai government might not approve FSD and robo-taxi for Elon, but if there's a Thai company that's making the cars,
locally,
the Thai government might approve that, right? Even if they're not going to approve Cybercab, and they're not going to let Tesla run its own robo-taxi.
That'd be crazy, but if they don't, that'd be crazy.
But they might approve it if it's Thailand.
I'm saying it'd be crazy if you don't approve Cybercab, to be honest. It would be crazy. But yeah, we've seen it with Starlinks, like you said. But yes, to all the คนไทยนะครับใครอยากจะมาทำงานให้กับคุณวอร์เรนมาสร้างรถคันโปรโตไทป์คันใหม่นะครับเป็นรถที่นั่ง1คนนะครับไม่ใช่มอเตอร์ไซค์แต่ว่าเป็นรถมีกรอบมีหลังคาอะไรอย่างนี้และคุณวอร์เรนจะให้ Tesla มาใส่ FSD นะครับในเครื่องนะถ้าเกิดว่ามีสัญญาจาก Tesla เมื่อไหร่คนเรนจะนำไป raise fund นะครับแล้วก็สร้าง company ในภาษาไทยซึ่งเป็นเป้าหมายที่ใหญ่มาก it's a big goal and you need a great engineer with dedication so if they're interested
I need a reasonably good engineer I don't need you don't have to be an A student at Chulalongkorn University you could be a C student at KMITL Prince of Chumphon campus
but if you have the passion and interest
you like to build things and you have built things and you want to build something and to be clear there's no company it's not a business it's Falang Ding Dong building a toy and then we'll build another toy and at some point it might become a business but right now it's just Falang Ding Dong building a toy and sorry Samun baht per month plus free housing in Gabi so
for more details follow where
I'm on X WR4NYGov I'm on WhatsApp 518-225 it's the US phone number 518-225
Details below.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank Warren. Thank you. ขอบคุณมากครับ something. Thank you very much. We'll next talk to you after the IPO and we'll get the answer if Tesla merge or not. But for today, thanks for your thoughts.
Thank you so much.